You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Welcome to the Trap Talk Reptile Podcast. I'm your boy MJ. If this is your first time tapping in, do your boy a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. That way you're on top of every single podcast we drop here on this channel. Why does it say, is everything, are we all tapped in, guys? Am I live? Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. It wasn't updating on my end. Anyways, but guys, what is good? I'm your boy MJ. Hope everyone's doing great out there. Yeah, man, if you're into keeping reptiles, breeding, just admiring, or just somebody who likes to look at them online or whatever, man, welcome to this channel. I mean, this is the best place you could come to be tapped into the reptile industry. Ball pythons, green tree pythons, boas, you name it, man. Tonight we have a legendary ball python podcast with somebody I've been following on Facebook for quite a while. So this would be a good episode to make you realize why it is important to still have a Facebook, because, not that he doesn't have Instagram. I just tapped in with him through Facebook. So it's going to be a great episode tonight. Shout out to all the early birds. I see you guys. But I do got to say that tonight's episode is brought to you by Clutch. That's CLTCH, Clutch, baby. Please head over to Clutch right now because they just launched. This is so epic. Big things popping right now over at Clutch. So shout out to Chesson Kabelka, Sebastian, the homie Josh. Okay. Wait, yeah, Josh. Call him Jace. But no, Josh, Summer. Big things popping, man. I had a good time hanging out with them at Arlington. And so far, so good. If you are using Clutch, let me know. Give me your feedback. Drop me some feedback in the comments. Don't be shy. Drop me a comment, man. Let me know what you're liking best. I'm not going to lie. I was going through some pairing recently today, and I got some exciting stuff I'm looking forward to getting going, and I'm actually going to geek out tonight on Clutch and update everything and whatnot. It's cool because you could actually follow people like you would follow somebody on, like a different social media platform and just kind of tap in to see what they have going on. So I not that I haven't been doing that already, but I'm actually myself going to be inputting stuff. So I know I have a few followers already on Clutch, people who are looking at my stuff. Just let you know, if you're one of them, I'm going to be updating on some of my ball python projects that I plan on doing this year. It's going to be sick. Shout out to Justin Kabelka again. Thank you so much for supporting the trap. And thank you so much for doing so much that you do in the reptile industry. I got to tell you, man, this guy's the Elon Musk of what we do. Guys, I do also want to say why it's important. Drop a comment, because if you're out there, if you're a big sticker person, I will give you a sticker to whoever drops a comment on this episode. Seriously, drop a comment for me. If I have to give you something to drop a comment, I will. I don't need anything in return. This is just me out of my heart giving you a sticker on the actual comment section, not the live chats. I see you guys. Live chats are always popping. But on the comment section, drop a comment. Let me know what you like best, or just say, hey, send me my sticker, and reach out to me on IG. Speaking of IG, go follow your boy on Instagram, because that's where I really have all my other stuff as far as, I'm a reptile keeper before I'm a podcaster. I always say that. I say this all the time. And I would like to prove that to you. If you could just please go follow me on Instagram, Trap Talk God 619 on IG. Go give me a follow, and then go follow the podcast's Instagram page as well, Trap Talk Reptile Podcast. And if you're looking to really tap into what I have going on, not only with the podcast, but I also have an amazing YouTube channel that's all about the vlogging side of things. Like, I go to people's collections. I document either their animals or what's going on in the area. But more importantly, I document my own stuff as well, so you can actually be tapped into what I have going on. And then if you're really looking for exclusive content, you can't look anything further than joining the Trap Talk Patreon family. There's a link in the description below. Okay, as soon as you join the Trap Talk Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, which will tap you in with over 160 trappers in the building. Long time, real deal keepers. I'm telling you right now, man, we all educate ourselves. And what's crazy is some of these people who are a part of this family, the longevity they've been in this game, and some not even that long, but they've been taking off really, really good. So either way, I want to say shout out to the Trap Talk Patreon family. I got a lot of things in works for Trap Fest 2023. I have a lot of you out there like asking yourself, like, man, I keep hearing about Trap Fest. Well, Trap Fest is an event that I throw for my Patreon members once a year. And I have a list of celebrity breeders that I bring. It's epic. DJ, food, fun and games. Let's just say that. It's a good time. This will be the third annual Trap Talk, Trap Fest 2000. That's going down in July. So just be ready, man. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family, get more details. And I got to say again, I love my Trap Talk Patreon family. Thank you for your love and support, guys. I do what I do because of you guys, man. I go hard in the paint. And some epic exclusive content coming very, very soon. I'm finally adjusting to my life here at the new house. Excuse me. You know, like I said, I preach this all along. Moving's not easy, okay? But I'm getting there. I see a light. You know, things aren't dying. Humidity's bugging the shit out of me. I got to figure that out. The incubator dialed in, super stoked. Things are hatching. Things are going good. So I'm almost there, guys. I think next week I can actually finally get my ass back to vlogging because I also have stuff I need to put out from, you know, my most recent travels. And again, shout out to you if you went to Arlington. If you were at Arlington NARBC, shout out to Bob Ashley, Brian Potter also. Yeah, I love you guys, man. That was an amazing time. The entire NARBC family. And shout out to you if you went. And yeah, man, who's ready for tonight? It's going to be a great episode. I hope you guys are ready. And look who's the start of this live chat. We got Jaffe, Canada's finest. What's good, Jaffe? Thanks for tapping in, my man. Appreciate it. Please go give Jaffe a follow on IG. Serious up-and-comer in the game. Another up-and-comer, my dog right here, 1776 Exotics, Trap Talk Patreon family, all day, every day. OG member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. Aaron, Bosa Balls in the building. What is good? The homie RO 5.0, who finally got his trap package, man. I'm so sorry about that. He got hit with the Tennessee holdup, man. They call it the Tennessee holdup. Actually, from what I heard, Ro, the package I sent you got held at Tennessee. They sent it back to San Diego for whatever reason. Whatever, man. I'm glad you got your snakes. Go get my boy Vibe with Ro on IG. I don't know if that's going to be your IG yet or whatever, bro, but we're going to talk. This guy right here is collecting heat from some serious hitters, and I'm not just saying that because I'm one of them. I'm just saying he's getting heat. Ro 5.0 all day, every day. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day as well. Julio Fulio. We got to go give Julio some love right now. This guy just can't catch a break with him in vehicles. He got hit or something like that again. I don't know. It's my dog. I wish I was in that place in my life where I could just throw a vehicle your way, Julio, but I'm not. But I love you, and I'm wishing you all the best insurance wealth in the world. Go attack that shit, man. Go get that shit. Go to the insurance. Go physical therapy. Do all that. PT. You know what I mean? Please, Julio, go follow him on Instagram. It's my dog. Thank you so much. Trap Talk Patreon member. Brian Heath and Hatchery in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. 217 Trap Talk Management Team. He's my dog. 217 Pythons, the homie Will. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Mark Anderson, who seriously needs to come on this show. It's going to happen this year. I promise you, Mark. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Ricky Bobby, SRT, who's going to get the super chat started. All right, guys, if you also want to support this podcast, okay, or this episode or this channel, whatever, life, throw a super chat, okay? Don't be shy with the super chats. I just see I got a new YouTube member right there. Hell yeah, join and become a part of the YouTube member team as well. That's starting to build up. And I mind you guys, I know I did say, and I'm standing on this. It's just I haven't done it yet. February 1st was supposed to be the mandate of no longer releasing the lives to the general YouTube public. So after, like, if you could catch a live, anyone could catch a live, but after it's said and done, it's only going to be revealed to Patreon members and YouTube members. And then everything else will be chopped up into highlights, and that could be for anybody, right? So I'm going to have to do that March 1st. So congratulations, get another free month. But I will say it's part of becoming one of the YouTube members. So if you're not a Patreon member for whatever reason, you'd rather just be a YouTube member, like my dog right here who just joined, you could actually do that. So you have options. Either way, I love all the love and support. You guys are awesome. Even the ones who watch this and don't subscribe, I appreciate it. Yes, I'm just kidding. Raymond Goodwin. What is up, Raymond Goodwin? This is going to be an awesome episode. You the man, MJ. What's up, Raymond? I appreciate that. Constrictor Connection in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. By the way, Raymond, thank you for being a member, YouTube member. I appreciate that. I got to find a name for the YouTube members, man. Either way, trap members. Either way, you're a trapper. Appreciate you. Eric's Morph Factory. What is good? Thanks for tapping in. Deviant Glass. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Justin Campbell. What is good? Thanks for tapping in. The Scaled Experience. Excuse me. Wow, it's a scary logo. But cool name. Either way, thanks for being here. Joe DeStefano, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thanks for being here. NW in the building. Thanks for being here. MKB Reptiles. Thanks for meeting a dude. Thanks for rolling up and saying hi to me at Arlington. It was a pleasure to meet you. I know you got some sick ass scores at Arlington. Dude, pleasure meeting one of my Patreon members at Arlington. This guy is cool as fuck. Go give him a follow. MKB Reptiles. Slowly but surely, he's gonna be dropping heat on that page, right, buddy? Right. All right, we're good. Sunshine State Sulfurs in the building. What is good? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. J Reptiles, who also just got some amazing trap heat in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member. Team YouTube all day, every day. He's a part of the YouTube team. That's my dog. Appreciate you so much. FTL Reptiles Levi in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Welcome to the Grove Tent. Trap Talk Patreon member. And we're going to have to end this in style because it's already game time. We're going to end this with my homie Trademan Exotics, another Trap Talk Patreon member. And he's also somebody hella worth go following because he has not only some sick ball python projects, but some amazing chondro stuff for my best friend Socrates. All right, guys, it is game time. Thursdays belong to the trap. And that's a fact. You guys know that. Coolest reptile podcast in the world. Episode 2. Wait, no, what do I mean 2? I'm tripping. Episode 305. Coming at you with the great and powerful Tom Barnhart. Let's go. Choo. You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it.
And we're live and direct with Tom Barnhart of Tom Barnhart Ball Pythons. What is good, Tom?
Hey, what's going on?
I did not see you at Arlington.
No.
You want? Can I clarify right off the bat? I gotta go and break the ice in MJ form here. Okay, so I hit up Tom. Really recent. By the way, thank you for being here, Tom, because as you know, I've been wanting to get you on the show. We just never really talked about a date, and then I just hit you up earlier this week asking you, hey, do you want to come on the show? And you were all for it. Now that's correct, right?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
I was confused by the message, though. I know I didn't even think about where you were going here, but yeah, it was me off.
Yeah, so what a time at Arlington. I was kind of on a cloud the entire time because how much fun it was. But I got to say, I thought this entire time. So I've been following you on Facebook for quite a while. Okay, and I remember hitting you up a long time ago, over 2 years ago, about, yeah, you want to come on the show sometime? You're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Just never happened. But I always thought at shows I was running into you, but it wasn't you. It's Tom Harden or Harton or Harmon. Am I saying that? Yes.
Okay,
Harbin. Okay,
he has the Monarch.
Yes,
guy.
the Monarch stuff, right? But for whatever reason, I just, I don't always pay attention at shows, even though I should. But I always thought that the Tom I'm saying hi to every single time, because I just know he's a cool fucking legendary Tom too. So I was like, but it's a good thing, a bad thing. I mean, bad thing is I have a problem paying attention, but the good thing is just actually two sick ass Toms out there who are in the game. And I got to say, looking forward to talking to him someday, but this right here, I am very excited for, because, you have many legendary, statuses in this game of just you being a good customer and breeder to the industry, but the Black Pastel story, I definitely want to tap into that, at some point tonight. But I just want to say, first and foremost, how have you been during the ball python recession? I'm just kidding. No, I mean, but like, how's everything been sales wise? We're out of COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
So what is anything new for the company or exciting or just leveled out or what's going on right now? I'm curious.
I think to kind of hit on that a little bit, I was behind the curve on like seeing the slowdown, which was like I'd see people talk about it and I was like, it's not hitting me, I guess, because I wasn't selling volumes worth of stuff, but I had, a unique line that people wanted. So for the longest time, I was like, I'm fine. And then recently it has slowed down. And where I've noticed that is female Black Pastel het anything would sell within a week typically. I mean,
right.
They would move, and if they were het clown, they'd sell in a couple of days if it was like a desirable mix of like yellow belly or leopard's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff would just fly. Now it's selling, but it's sitting a little bit longer, and the female stuff is still good. It's good to make it, and I'm holding on to that. I'm just putting weight on it. Eventually, they're all going to be closer and closer to breeding, and they'll sell. But the male Black Pastel het stuff is definitely slowed down to the point where some things online right now, I'm kind of thinking, I can't believe that hasn't been bought yet, because that's a great male if you're on a budget too. Like if you just have a couple of clown females, you throw a male like Black Pastel. I have some Spectre, Mojave, Black Pastel, leopard stuff that would be it's not a super expensive snake het clown. That would be a great addition to anybody that has any clown yellow bellies, because that's an easy moneymaker, and it's not that much anymore for a male. But it's going well. The good thing I have, I guess, good and bad, is I'm small, so I can absorb this.
Right.
And it's not like cut my knees out from me or anything. So I'm just kind of sitting tight. And it's also refocusing all of my thoughts, and all of my plans are just getting more and more like distilled down to bigger and better stuff. Like I don't want to make Black Pastel female het for this or that. I want to make double, triple recessive.
Right.
And I have that in the works. It's just slowly coming along. It'll take a year or so. And I bought a couple of nice snakes recently that'll really hopefully launch me further into that. And I'm just trying to refocus and get rid of a lot of stuff that I've been holding, because it's a money maker. Like this female here, I know she'll breed for me, and her clutch will give me X amount of dollars. And I like to see what they, sometimes it's nice to have those extras too, because if your primaries aren't going, you have those backups. So I'm looking more like, do I really need them, or would it be better to just fill my tubs and kind of take the odds approach of just like, I want this amount of money per breeding. I don't need to do 50 or 100 clutches. I just need to do like 20 powerful ones for where I'm at, to kind of like get by and be satisfied and still enjoy everything,
My big thing, Tom, is like, how low does a guy or girl need to go before it's like desperate? You know what I mean? And I came to realize that because I noticed people just weren't buying nearly as much as I was used to. And I say that because my first year of selling snakes was during COVID, and even the year after that was fun, but now it's like that money is just kind of just A, was not realistic, and B, not here no more. And so, but also like, I don't know, man, I got to thank this podcast, and I'm giving myself kudos, but I went from being, I want to first and foremost breed whatever I can breed, and meaning get however many clutches I can get, and then deal with all the stuff I don't want later. But if that was my game plan, I would be sitting on so much shit and being so much stressed out right now. But the thing is, I'm really not. Like, yeah, I have a couple hatching racks that are pretty much filled. And I did have them. I had a few on Morph Market. They're sold now. Why do you think? Well, fucking tax season. Hello, people got money now. Yeah. Or they're feeling more loose. Whatever the case. Now my Morph Market's completely, everything's either on hold or it's sold. But I do have a lot to put on. But mind you, if I just have stuff that I don't need to be desperate to get rid of, like, because I gotta tell you, like, I don't know, I was really happy, even though like there's been yellow belly clown combos for a while now. I made some pretty cool shit, and I couldn't believe a female wasn't selling for $1,000. Like I had a fire yellow belly leopard clown, like, and I saw that like other combos that had less combos were like 1,200. So I was like, okay, $1,000 it has to sell. Like, I mean, I'm literally giving people free codoms here, right? And then I was just like, what the fuck? Like, and in my stomach, I was like, you want to charge like $1,500 for that snake. In your heart, you want to, but whatever, you want to sell it, and so. I was just like, I'm first and foremost, I was like, I'm not going lower because I'm not even happy with this number. And what's crazy, I looked, I saw all these clicks. Shit, I was getting some inquiries, right? But it was just typical morph market inquiries where it's like beat around the bush questions. You know what I mean? But
getting a ton of those now.
It comes with the territory, though, man.
Yeah.
This is why you got to adapt and you got to mold into a salesman, or first and foremost, build somehow like counter this window shopper into a customer by giving them the time of day, which is a lot to do, But that's why I understand. Like I've talked to Justin and other people who are late night owls, and I guarantee they're going back and forth, and I guarantee this person probably is like, oh my God, he's talking to me. Something happens where that relationship gets concreted, and that's sometimes how much you have to do to get somebody to buy a snake from you.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I give everybody full attention. Even if they're buying, doesn't matter the level of snake, because everything I put on Morph Market typically has a bottom, a lower level. Other than that, I'm going to find somebody local and sell it to. But on Morph Market, like I'll go back and forth with people for, a couple $100 snake if that's what it is. But the cool thing is, yeah, typically they do come back. But yeah, there is a threshold, obviously, because you can tell when someone's just asking you ridiculous questions. And I still am cordial and courteous with my responses, but I'm starting to mumble under my breath after a while. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of you get what you put in whatever you're doing. And I feel like that's kind of like good juju or good karma. I feel like, just because, some people just need, like, first and foremost, some people just need a friend, right? And you guarantee you kind of get that. You're like, and what I mean by that, I'm not saying they don't have friends outside of this, but they're coming into this knowing nobody. You know what I mean? And I remember, man, listen, I used to ask, I don't know if it was just my charm during a text, but I was able to inquire some really solid friendships right off the bat. But like, I also I would always, I was an asker. I still do ask, but I don't need to go out there no more. Now it's in my phone. I don't need to, or not, it was always in my phone, but it's in my contact list. You know what I mean? But like, so I understand the excitement, but I also understand that I was, I am still them in a sense, just not like I know more people, and I know how it's like not to know people. Like I think we all know what that feelings like to not know people. And in this game, people want to be known. Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's a disease. And that's not a bad thing to want to be known, but it's kind of like people will go out of their way to make sure they're known. And if they're not known, then they'll want to deteriorate anything around them. But that's why you got to stay focused, right? And respect to you for being in the game since 2002.
Yeah, that's when I got my first. I got my first ball python from Brian Barchek.
Wow, my buddy Brian Barchek. No, you don't say.
It's funny because like the industry was it was much smaller. Right. So like my first ball python was from Brian Barchek. My second two were from Ralph Davis. And it's like these guys are. You look back, these were huge names back then.
Still are, man. We still talk about these names. These names are still dropped every day, I think.
And I was getting hits too. So the good thing about like what you just went back to saying that people just want to have somebody to connect with,
right?
Is I had Oz, and I didn't realize at the time he was just more of a grinder than I was. He would work harder and get to where he wanted to go faster. I was taking the slow, kind of leisurely route, like, oh, this is fun. I'm not going to like put too much effort into it. I'm just going to kind of enjoy myself. But he did steer me in the right directions. He would say, don't get their heads from not really name names, but like get them from this person. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Almost got you. Okay. I'm gonna throw a curveball.
Those guys are all out of it. Those guys that were shitty back in the early 2000s mostly are no longer here. Now I'm not talking about like Ralph and Brian. Those guys were the top.
But there's new generations of shitty people, obviously. We never. That's the problem of the human society. I would say is like you just have your piece of shit people. You know what I mean? But obviously, if you kind of are smart about your surroundings and like, man, I got to say the biggest reason I'm happy not to be the piece of shit I once was at one point is the people I hang out with, because I'm around really good people now and I'm just in a good place. And I keep myself around people I want to be in life. You know what I mean? And some people don't really kind of even cross that road. Like some people don't know their worth, and some people don't know, they don't even realize, like, listen, you could actually be a lot more than you think if you surround yourself around those kind of people. But listen, it takes more than just being at your home and being on your phone and just doing your thing. Like you really got to get out there, Tom. And I'm sure you know that.
I used to get out. I used to go to the local shows in the Mid-Atlantic, like the PA shows, Virginia. There was a rinky-dink one in Maryland. And I just say that because there wasn't a lot of selection and variety. And then I was also kind of naive back in the day. So I would make deals with people through King Snake.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, meet me at the Harvard Grace show. So that's about a 2.5-hour hike it's across the state. So I'd drive there with a pastel male for like $150. Right. And again, this is when I'm first starting. So 150 cash, that'll get me rats for weeks back then because I only had a small collection. And you get there and the guy or the person is there or they were there and they spent their money. They're like, oh yeah, I already spent my money, so I can't buy your snake now. And I'm like, well, what, just again, being naive, thinking everyone was going to do what they said. I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do?
Hell no. Yeah. No expectation.
I go look at his stuff, but if he's not there, there wasn't much ball python selection.
I learned in the music industry the hard way, and this was a rough thing to learn at that time because I thought everyone would come to my event, and I spent a lot of money throwing this event, and then I just had high expectations. I got high expectations of how many people were going to come to this event because who was going to be there, and it just ended up being a fucking complete dud. And I was so like devastated. And then one of my biggest inspirations, his name was Jimbo. He's still one of my good friends, but he's like the fucking party king in San Diego, and he has a really successful music label. And I was really close to him. But anyways, he just kind of sat down and was like, bro, you can't have if you do something, do it because you want to do it first and foremost, but don't have any expectations of results, either of who likes it, who's going to show up, because you're doing it for you, and not everyone's going to either, it's just a funny thing. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget that. And so now, even going into this podcast, I had no expectations. Because I just never cared what someone's opinion was going to be, because I knew there was going to be someone's negative opinion and positives, but I knew there's going to be somebody who wasn't going to like what I was doing. And I just got to say, I don't care. And, for me, it's easy. It really is. But some people, it's hard for them not to care. It eats them alive, mainly because they want everyone to like, and like there's people who just want to be liked by everybody, you know what I mean? And I don't even know what you call that. I mean, how do you deal with that? Let me ask you that. I mean, did you ever, coming up even in the younger generation or younger years of you doing this, did you feel like not liked amongst some people, and you just had to like just figure that out on your own? Anything like that?
Never amongst like the leaders and the ones that like we look back on as the
relevant ones, right?
Yeah, because like Brian Barczyk, I hung out with him at Tinley with Oz, and he was always super nice. The guy was never upset. He was always just running around like a mile a minute, but he was super nice and talkative. And then I met Mark Mandic really early on, probably 2007. I knew who he was because he had an old webpage with a breeding tutorial with pictures of like, this is what the snake looks like when it ovulates. This is what a gravid snake looks like. Then he had a picture of him holding the snake up, and you could see the belly just distended. Stuff like that was invaluable because I'm like, you just take notes and you go back to his page and keep looking. You look at your snakes and you look at what he had, and you're like, oh, I think I might be at this stage. So I knew of him, but I had no idea back in 2007 that he was going to go on to be like the top guy in Canada, But he was always super nice, very intelligent, very easy to talk to, and he always gave tips. Like he would be very helpful. Like if he saw something, he's like, you should do this, or you should, he told me I should name my company. I should form like a name other than my name. I didn't.
Mark did that for so many people who are relevant today in this game. One of the families being one of the ones I love the most, Straight Fire Reptiles.
I've heard him talk about him. Yep.
I didn't even know about me. This is funny because, I started off as a ball python guy, but Mark Mandic wasn't even a thought in my mind until Levance mentioned him on my podcast. And I was like, and then after that, I felt like all these, everyone was just dropping Mark Mandic. And then I just I knew him as Mary Jane, like always, or not Mary Jane, Mark Jane, Marcus Jane, Mary Jane. You know where my mind's at right now. But Marcus Jane, that's all I could really put things together. And then I started finding about the MJ Xantic line, and I'm like, dude, this guy. And then, but more importantly, even before his projects, getting mad respect on his name, I couldn't help but to hear how much help he has done to so many people I respect and love, and selling the best stuff in the ball python game today. Mark Mandic is the man. Like he is the man, like the GOAT right now. I'm telling you right now, he's the man.
Yeah, he's just easy to deal with. Like we'll message, and he's always helpful, and it seems like he always has time, even though people at that level, I know at my level, which is not low but not high, I get inundated with messages and emails and requests, but it usually happens like an accordion. Like right now, it's slower, but man, when it's busy,
it's up. Right.
I have to pull myself away from everybody because everyone's trying to talk to you while you're on the phone, and I'm not just like looking at pictures. A lot of times I'm responding to people just so I don't forget, because if you forget, it's like it's a little disrespectful depending on who's sending you the message, but it happens.
Right.
But also it could be a sale if you respond immediately to that inquiry. If you wait a day or two, they might spend their money somewhere else. So I'm always as quick as I can, which typically most of them come in the middle of the night for me. So I wake up in the morning and start hitting the responses. But
this is where I definitely messed up here, Tom. And what I mean by that is if I could kind of go back to my first year selling snakes during COVID and during that amazing time in my life, I wish I would have just stopped being so like I basically would judge somebody. Like if somebody window shot me a certain way or like just like gave me an attitude or something, I X'd them out in my head because I'm like, why do I need this bullshit? I sell snake and it's gone. You know what I mean? But hold up, you know what I mean? Like that's like, and what's crazy is like the following year, if I could go back and rehash that with that person, I really would. But like it didn't start dawning on me that, you know, when things are up, things are up. You know what I mean? But what are you going to do when things are not up?
Yeah.
I mean, there's multiple things you can do. You could go back to those people you've been going back and forth with, and literally you got to close people sometimes. I'm not saying force, like if this person already has a collection and they're just indecisive on projects, because some people can't make a fucking decision. There's some people who just can't make, they're just scared and can't make a choice. And when they do make their choice, they're very happy. I used to be one of them. Okay. And I'm just talking about people dropping a couple G's and stuff. Like I get it. I understand it, but it's like jumping in cold water. You're going to be all right. You know what I mean? But anyways, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I was kind of I was veering left there for a second.
Yeah. Like I'm more patient now, and people do want more pictures. And I get that. I mean, they're spending money on an object they haven't seen in person. So it's I'm very accommodating with that. And some people typically, and I've said this before, the people that want the most questions answered are the ones that are buying the least expensive snakes. They're just getting into it. They're not really sure what to do. They want you to tell them this is a good project and you do this and that with it. And I'm fine doing that. I always try to be honest with everybody. Like, this is what you should do. If you get that snake, you should probably go this route. But then again, I don't want to be like forceful. Just here's what I would do with that snake, or they'll send me their whole collection. And I look at it. And that's hard to do because there's so many freaking avenues anymore with how to go with anything. I always try to steer people with, you want to be in this for the long run. You got to make stuff that people want. You can like it. That's fine to like it. But what do people want? And also, what's a barrier to entry for what you're going to do that means I can't do it next year if I don't want to, or at least buffer yourself from the crowd and the majority by going somewhere a little bit more difficult. And I'm talking recessives. Try to get those double and triple recessives into like your codoms that you like. And that's generally, I mean, it's not like a novel idea, but make yourself bulletproof and give yourself a buffer so people can't catch you quickly. And you know, eventually everything will start. You'll be at the head of the pack. You'll be able to sell stuff because if people want that, they got to come to you. And that's the one good thing with my line is, like my Black Pastel line, like I've been at the lead of the pack for a while now. It's out there, but it was good because I had like an exclusivity type, you know, not deal, but like you had to come to me for certain things. And you know,
Tom, pause. Don't lose that thought because
we'll come back to that.
No, hold on. I'm gonna wreck these people right now because of the amount of disrespect for this individual, Tom Barnhart. Okay, my boy, my friend now. You're gonna tell me there's only 45 likes and 90 people watching this right now.
They might think it's Tom Harbin.
No, hell no. They know where they're at. Black Pastel. Oh, dude, knock it off. Guys, I know you're excited to see this guy or me or the Focus Cube Habitat. Shout out to sponsor. But get the likes up for Tom. What's wrong with you guys? Continue, Tom. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
They know better. This is ridiculous. Continue, please.
One thing I answered half of your question from earlier about like people how did you deal with different attitudes back in the day?
Right.
So back in the day, we didn't have social media. We had online forums, and you know, King Snake was the first one I was introduced to. Fauna Classifieds, and Bush League was probably the most dynamic of all of them. And there was ballpythons.net. So all four of these, you would visit them. And I worked nights. I worked third shift, so I had a lot of downtime, you know, during the night. So I would just sit there and at work on my computer visit these sites, and there would be, you'd see the battles, and these would be like arguments that don't get deleted. Like Facebook, you can delete it. The only way they would get deleted is if the admin deleted them of the forum. So you would see big industry leader type guys just going back and forth or throwing like jabs at each other. And you're like, oh shit, what does that mean? Because you'd eventually figure it out, or you talk to someone, they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so, you know, screwed someone over on a deal or whatever. But where it came in with me, I would usually just watch from the sidelines. I was a small fish, just still kind of getting bearings and everything. But every once in a while, people would ask questions. And if you knew the answer and you had experience, there's no reason why you can't answer the question. So I would answer, I'd help. But what would happen is you would get an asshole here and there just to kind of like start poking holes, trying to poke holes in what you said. I'm like, let's, you know, if you want to get technical, you could answer this 3 different ways. So I just kind of gave my opinion, and I wouldn't engage typically to get to what you were saying earlier. I would get pissed and I'd want to engage, but I was like, where am I going to go with this? I'm not arguing with this guy. I don't even know who he is. He's just some random username, and he's a nobody to me. Yeah.
It's so funny you say that as I'm staring at the chats right now. I know exactly what you mean. Like, I just like, I'm not going to sit here and argue with somebody who just, it's because at the end of the day, there's not enough people who are happy enough with their own projects that they feel like they're relevant that way. So they just got to either try to chirp or just be something to say something so they get eyes, but they don't realize that kind of eyes, like, those eyes aren't looking at you like, oh man, respect. Like, yeah, like,
yeah,
no,
like they're just people, and you see they do it with everybody. So it's like, after you figure it out, you're like, it's just white noise. You just go scroll past it. And like I said, I would comment, but I typically would never get into the argument comments or down in the weeds, because, and that's kind of how I'm still here doing this and happy, because I've always taken an approach of like, I'm going to do what I have to do for me. I'll help somebody if I feel I can. Now, you also had the people that would help, you know, answer the questions who haven't got their first ball python, but they knew a lot. And they, in their own mind, they did. And they would say stuff. I'm like, well, you haven't received you didn't have a ball python, but you're giving a lot of advice. Those are the ones that you kind of, it was a mix, you know, back then. It was different. It was very, it's funny. It's sometimes it's fun just to think back on how it was, the whole industry back then, when you're talking maybe 7 or 8 recessives and probably 10 codoms that were proven at the time. It made things, I guess, easier now to look back and figure out what projects you want to do, because there's not like hundreds of different options. But it was limiting too, because I would get an albino or head albinos to do one thing with them, to make albinos and then make more albinos. And then if I really wanted to like take the long route, I'd do like an albino, which is a horrible combination, like an albino hypo or an albino pastel. And people were making these combos, and they were slightly different looking than a normal albino, because that was a very overpowering gene. And it just, I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. That'll take too long. I just want to make more pastels and keep the females. And it was just such a different mindset then as opposed to now, where it's like, I don't want any of that stuff that's single gene. Like, I want to get to like double, triple recessives with 3 or 4 codoms that look good. Now that's the key. Once you get to the point where it all gets saturated out and turns gray, that's where everybody was running into back in the day, because they were just taking codom to codom to codom, or incomplete dominant, whatever you want to call it. And they were making snakes that would get great after about 3 genes, maybe better after 4. Then it would become gray. And fortunately, the recessive, double recessive stuff started kicking in harder. It's always been around. They've always been double recessives. But 10 years ago, you start to see more people like lead that wave. And now you see it big time with, I think that's the most exciting part, like the recessive to recessive, because it's a long game, and you got to be in it for a while if you want to like succeed and make these genes that people haven't put the time into, because they back in the day, they wanted to make something this year and next year. I don't want to think about 3 or 4 years down the road. That was it was just a rush. It was a rush to the bottom back then of
that's crazy.
How many cinnamons and Mojaves and black pastels can we make and sell before everybody stops buying ball pythons? And that's what it was. It was just mass production of these dominant and co-dom morphs.
And again, Tom, some of this is still happening as we speak. There's people in here who just, like I said, that's the kind of the fuck, dude. You know, you come into this and you just want to do what you do without being surrounded by legit, reputable people. You could get put into a rabbit hole that you're going to regret, right? And like I said, nothing. Here's the thing. I came into this game off somebody I met from Craigslist, okay? And this kid, he's not a kid anymore, but at the time I met him, he was 19 or 18 years old. I'm 33, 32 years old, you know, complete gap. But he's like, I'm looking at him like my big brother because he's showing me all these snakes. And I'm like, bro, he's like, dude, someday you can make something crazy with this. And mind you, it was like really cool cinnamon yellow belly stuff and like super pastel stuff. And this is what, 2016, barely 2016. So that codoms were still being fucking dumped on back then. No problem, you know? Yep. And I can never forget about the super GHI. And when I first saw a GHI, mind you, first and foremost, when he brought a GHI to me, I was like, I want to make, I just want, like, this was my thing, GHI, right? And he just wasn't in the game. Like, he didn't really know shit about recessives or anything. So he was like, yeah, go for it. He's like, if you put that to that, it just gets darker. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, and then I got all this weird spider shit. Nothing against spider, but I was just like, fuck the whole, I don't even know what the whole recessive codom thing is. If I like that, I like that. I'm going to put it together and I make a version of it like dogs. You know what I mean? But no, that's not the case. And I was 60 something snakes deep, Tom, before I figured that out. Okay. Like, and that's luckily, like, I'm a hustler. So I was able to like hurry up and like get shit. Cause I by that time, Craigslist is okay. But dude, Craigslist was just, people were just buying shit. And then I was meeting people to trade and I started tapping in with a lot more local people and knowing who has what. And it made my brain work a little more. And then that's when I first met my first like mentor ball python breeder who actually had an Instagram to show me everything. And it was like game over after that. And that's, you know, but man, I wanted it quick. And everyone, I feel like, especially if you're obsessed with animals, when you're obsessed with reptiles your whole life and you never even knew of any of this as a child, and now you're a man and now you realize there's a whole world. And you know, Tom, I don't want to get into this, but you know, I was in a completely fucked up lifestyle before coming into this throughout my whole 20s, beginning of my 30s. And so I have so much to dedicate myself to all this shit. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? And I'm not the only one, but I could have easily drove myself into the ground by just stacking all these codoms and just, you know, it's your duty to fucking do research. And I feel like ball pythons are so easy that people think that they could just sit on their projects and not have to do any research or actually start tapping in and start talking to people. Because true or false, Tom, if you hear about something by more than one person, it's already too late as far as like, you know, being like, oh, what? Like what's the underdog morph, or, you know, like there's always shit. Like I remember when I first heard about lace, right? And I was like, what the fuck is a lace? And now I'm so sought after that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I had zero interest in lace for years. And it's not like it didn't just pop up last year. It's now just, I'm now seeing what it does, because not many people had it, or they had it and it was misidentified as this is lace, and it really wasn't. Because I'd see it and I'm like, it's okay. It's a subtle gene, but I'm not really seeing the value. But now I'm seeing the value because it's like another DG. It's with a little bit of pattern differences, especially on the belly from what it looks like.
What about
the stuff Justin's making is awesome.
So, but listen, here's the one thing about the lace, right? Like I have a lace that I got from a good buddy of mine, Joel Woolsey from State 48 Exotics. It's a beautiful, if you could have fooled me, if you would have showed me this snake when I first came in, I would have thought, man, this is a beautiful, normal looking ball python. Like, it just looks really nice. Right. But you know, that's supposed to be the foundation of what it can do. People think that we are being misled, or everyone in general are misled on the fact that a super gravel, or excuse me, not super gravel, but a super form of something could just be the recessive version of it, and we're just confusing ourselves. Like, for instance, like a Mojave and a Bell and a Blue-Eyed Lucy, right? Like a Mojave could just be a crazy het influence to the Blue-Eyed Lucy.
About that. Yeah, I've thought about that, and like, especially with the genes like het reds and even yellow bellies to an extent, they're subtle. They're like a lower example of each looks kind of like a normal. Is it just a small influence? Because a lot of people can say, and I think I've listened to Billy from Mutation Creation say that he can pick out het monsoons. Well, I can't. There's in Alston. I look at them and they look like normals to me, but there's something they're seeing that they can pick it out with pretty good accuracy, I believe. But that's the same thing. That's a recessive, but you can see something in the het form. And there's other genes people claim to be able to do with hypos. I've never been able to. I mean, I have hypos all through my collection. I've never seen anything in the het that says to me that's definitely a het. If it's a pos het, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, that's a good theory, because I've thought about that. I was like, what if the dominance and incomplete dominance and codoms are all just kind of like recessives, but more visual? It's all kind of whether you can see it or not. And there could be subtle things in some of these hets that we're calling hets that we're just not seeing, but they're there, you know?
Right. I mean, I've been another good move why you don't want to overdo it, because there's some things that are quote unquote not 100% hets, but you could fucking see it, goddamn it, right there through your, like, you're like, dude, okay, like, hello, like a head stamp is something when it comes to clown stuff, right?
It's got a glow to it.
It has not only the glow, but there's like, why does everything have a weird stamp on its head? Like, you know, and I hit a really cool clutch last year, where it was just we weren't going for visual. We're not going. We know we weren't going to make visuals. We're going to make double hets, but like, holy shit, the stamps on each and one of these heads. I'm like, bro, we're not selling any of these. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, also too, we haven't talked. Well, I guess we could kind of damper into this right now because, man, the genetic testing, the genetic skin testing. How solid do you think that's going to? Do you think that's something that's here to stay, or do you feel like something's gonna, like, inconsistently might happen where people are going to be like, well, we're not going to use that? Like, is that the future? Is that not the future? And while you're talking on that, I'll be right back. I can hear you. Okay. So just keep going. Go ahead.
I have 6 shed tests that I purchased that I'm just waiting on the 6th snake to shed. But they're some Spectre tests, because they have the yellow belly complex figured out now. I have some het clown stuff because, and this is odd. It's not het clown, it's clown, because I have some super black pastels that are black, but they were from a clown to a het clown breeding. And so they could be hets or visuals. And I do have some visual super black pastel clowns. Now, I don't try to make too many of those. Typically, those resulted as a lack of the primary male breeding for me. So I'll use a backup sometimes. I don't try to hit on super blacks because they're just not healthy animals for the most part. But when you do get a healthy one, they're fine. I mean, I have some in my rack that are old breeders. But back to the genetic testing stuff, I like it. I think it's here to stay, so long as there's nothing crazy that happens where everything actually proves out as it should, and there's no like funny business or anything weird with it. And that would be more on the customer, not the testing lab. It would be something that maybe somebody could, I don't think they can mess with it too much based on how they have it set up for security reasons and whatnot. But I like it. And here's where I like it, because I have snakes that are 100% hets, visuals, het for this, that I want to put on another 2 other visual recessives. So right there, you're talking 4 in the mix. 3 are visual, 1's het. I would never do that before, because I would never know. I don't want to mess with 50% hets at this point in the game. If it happens, it happens, but it's not my goal. Now, I can do that, and whatever I get, I just send it out. And then whatever test for, like, say it's like a het clown, whatever test for being het, I keep it, or I sell it without being a het. But for the most part, it would be for me getting like triple, quad het type things, because I'm not there yet. I don't have that many visual double hets. And if I do, they're typically in the hypopide aspect. But I have some ultra male het clown, and that would be something just to throw on a ghost pied female. That way I would guarantee three of the genes are there: the ultramel, the ghost, and the hypo and the pied. And the fourth one was a het clown. So 50% of the clutch should have that, or depending on how the odds work out, all of it could.
Right.
So that's where it opens my eyes, because before I would never do that breeding, but now I'm like, and I have a hypo Black Pastel pied female. That would be a great breeding to put this ultramel het clown, and it's also a red striped spot nose on, because everything visual, you have 3 codoms you're working with, and then you have all those recessive. Like, to me, I'm just salivating to start those projects, even though they're long and they're going to take up a lot of rack space. That's where the genetic testing, I think, comes into play and really is valuable to me, because I'm like, I'm keeping all this stuff.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like you could be pulled so many different directions on technically what can do what, right? And then you could also like think, well, no one does this. Maybe I could be the one. Like you could drive yourself fucking crazy. I think what you need to do is just figure it out, wait, and see what happens. And I think people just don't want to have to go through a year of failure, and that's fine if you happen to wait. Or not, maybe it'd be more than a year, because you have to wait sometimes and raise the snake and then see what happens. But motherfuckers, people been doing that for years. Like, look at you, Tom. How many times have you done something, raised it, bred it, and you're like, I think I'll never do this again, and you moved on
all the time. It still happens now, which is good, because that means you're still trying. You're still trying to be on the forefront of the breeding and like what hasn't been done before. And if I have ingredients to do it and I think it'll be good, I'm not just doing stuff to do it, but if I think it'll be a good outcome, I'm going to try it. But like you said, sometimes it's not. And then you're like, and it's funny because this is a very simple example. Go back many years, not to where we're at today. But I saw somebody with my line. I sold it to a guy in Ohio, just a Black Pastel male. He bred it to some Orange Dream stuff. And the Orange Dreams that he was making were just, the Orange Dream Black Pastels were like, I saw it and I'm like, why bother? And I know that's my line because I know that guy. I sold it to him. So for years, I didn't touch that. I didn't even make that combination because I'm like, it doesn't go well. It's a waste. So I steered away from it. And then finally I did it about 5 years ago and made Black Pastel, Orange Dream, Yellow Belly stuff. And it would just look phenomenal. And that's just an example of sometimes you might fail with the first time and you think, well, this is all it has to offer, but you just might have hit a shitty looking combo or just bad odds altogether. And also I remember talking to Oz years ago, back in the 2008, 9, 10 area. And he was breeding, what was he breeding? Super Orange Dream, or Orange Dream to Orange Dream. And he just had the worst luck. So there's no super, basically was what he was saying. Because he had many clutches with nothing. And then he did Orange Dream to Enchi, and he hit a combo, and it was pretty cool, but it just wasn't as bright as I thought it would be that first time. But he kept working it, and I mean, look where he's at with it now. He kept doing Orange Dream to Orange Dream too. After, like, I'd say at least 2 good years of his volume versus mine. So he probably had a handful of clutches under his belt with nothing. It was just the odds. It's just like when he hit it, that was a game changer for him. I mean, he was already doing really well with the Orange Dream, but the super, it's like, holy shit.
We all know that this hobby's full of just generational, transitions, meaning there's always, I guess, the next Aussie and the next, just like the, even though there is only one Aussie, but for what Orange Dream has done to this entire fucking ball python game, it's hard. I don't know. It's hard to think. And I said I like GHI and all that stuff, but I have to give so much to Orange Dream. Like, Orange Dream is one of the most craziest relevant morphs that is going to stick around this place forever. And like you said, once you got it breeding into the right thing and you create these higher versions of it, which obviously he's done many, many times. And then we're talking about them doing this on their own. We're not talking this in double DG clown or triple DG. Like, we have not seen that world yet. It's going to be like a whole other world. It's like we're starting over, it's just, and it's going to take time, which I love. Thank God. I want this to be hard.
Yeah. Cause
it shouldn't be easy.
Super Orange Dream Hypo Pied is one of the coolest looking snakes I've seen. And Mark Mandic has some of that. Oz has some of that. They're so orange and bright. And I'm so on pied. I've been in pied because it's an old gene, and it was cool at first. But the reason I say that is I like pattern. When you start taking the pattern away, that's fine if you have low white pieds. But when you start hitting high white pieds, which traditionally a lot of black pastels, unfortunately, are high whites. I'll get about 30% of my black pastel pieds to have more than 20% pattern on them, which they look great, but most of them are high whites. And I've seen that in the industry with cinnamons as well. But where I was going with this is if I wanted to do pied, I'd want to do DG and hypo super orange dream stuff all day, and then add fire and yellow belly and leopard to it to kind of deepen the oranges. That's where it really just, like you were saying, orange dream is so awesome. And it really hasn't been done a shit ton in the clown. Like, if you think about it, you've seen orange dream clowns, but how many super orange dream clowns with other stuff have we seen? I think that's another one that it just adds that color that's hard to replicate with other genes. And when I first saw the orange dream from Oz, I saw it over his townhouse. He lived right down the street from where we both worked at the same place. I went down there and I looked at it. He's like, I got all this stuff from me, and he threw in these. I think they were head albinos or pos head albinos, something weird. And it was actually, I don't know, I can't remember exactly if he had a female and a baby, but like I just looked at him like, okay, so it was starting to get in that area too, where like everybody had a mutation that was a normal. That had a different look, and yellow bellies were like crazy at the earlier. That
you see how relevant you are, Tom. I love it.
Yeah, it made me stop.
You got Marcus Mandic in the building. Who knows?
I had an idea, and I saw that come up. I was like, oh shit.
Him and his wife are best friends. They could be right next to each other. We don't know, but if just in case, I'm gonna say hi to both. Hi, Marcus and Jane. Thank you for being here tonight. This is iconic. Thank you so much. I always love it when he's in the house. That's when that's why I know. Yes, this is gonna be a fire podcast. If we see this guy in the chats right here.
Yeah, Mark, I was talking about your breeding page earlier. Back in the day when you had the picture tutorial of like, this is a gravid female. This is what a lock looks like, all that stuff. I was saying how valuable that was to me when I first started, because we just didn't have the resources we have now. So that was very well done for like a web page. But
okay, hold on. To stop you right there. You know, do you feel like the resources are too much available to where it's almost easier to mess up now than it was when the resources were limited? Or I mean, because like I said, this is a very piggyback era we're in, meaning like people meet the one person they sticker swapped with, and they're going to do business with them, and they only do business because it's a buddy thing. But at the end of the day, this has to become strategical. Like you have to and some of the best people in the game buy from people who they don't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's
you have to sometimes.
You have to sometimes. You got to delegate that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of resources, and I think you can get lost, especially if you kind of if you buy into the wrong person giving the advice, who shouldn't be giving advice, perhaps.
Right.
But there's so many choices. Like I know I didn't know at the beginning. I only knew because Oz was about 6 months ahead of me, maybe a year ahead of me with boas. And he's like, this is the guy you need to deal with, this guy and that guy. Oh, you're looking for this? So-and-so. We'd be at a show. We went to, they had an old NRBC show up in Philly. It was called the Valley Forge Show back in the early 2000s. And that's where it was funny because like Bob Clark was there, Ralph, Barchek, Will Banks. It was a big NARBC show, but we'd walk around and he's like, I was looking for a pastel male, and they were like 1,500 to 2,000. And we were asking, it's funny, you couldn't find any. And we're asking all these people, like, I'm ready to buy a $1,500 pastel male. And we went to a couple guys that were local, and they're like, I just sold my last one. I mean, think about that environment where you couldn't find a male pastel to buy. It's funny, but like he was good because he would I'd always reach out to him. Now we still communicate, just not as much. He's busy, and I don't have as many questions, obviously, at this point. But back in the day, I was like, what do you do? We talk all night at work. Like, what do you do if you cross this with that? And typically it would be like, oh, that's a bumblebee, or oh, that's a pewter. But it was cool to pick his brain, and we were both kind of coming up. He took the bull by the horns and went full steam. But it was good because he was learning at like a rate so much faster than me. But I also used that knowledge that he was getting. He was passing it down to me. So it's good to find those people. Now today, there's so many people, like it's hard to keep track with who's providing a good YouTube channel saying like good advice or who's giving shitty advice, who doesn't really, I mean, may not be respected. And there's a reason why he's not respected. But if you're new, you have no idea this guy's got a channel. He might be the guy I need to listen to, but he might not. In reality, he's going to steer you wrong.
Yeah,
you don't know who's who anymore.
Yeah, the way I feel like people should look at it like this is like, take your time. Like, there's no rush.
Exactly.
Like, because just because you're feeling some type of way right now because of that post, that YouTube video, whatever the hell that you just saw, which I'm telling you, that was my problem. Whenever I saw it, I'll take it. You know, I didn't give a fuck. And I thought, like, I don't even need it, but I'll buy it anyways, which don't ever do that. But I'm just saying, like, there's nothing like, you know, that snake will be there tomorrow. If it's a morph market thing, more likely that snake will be there tomorrow. So just kind of like, you know, if you're that kind of, don't. And if it's not there, it's not there. Maybe it's not meant to be. I was always eventually after I slowed my roll a little bit, I looked at things that were like, okay, I really want this right now. You know what I mean? And, you know, mind you, if it made that much sense, I'll do it. You know, if you feel, go with your heart. I don't want to be corny, but sometimes if you feel it that much in your heart and you know you need it, then you need it. Right.
Yeah. And if it makes you happy, it's like, it was funny because I went through a period where I wasn't introducing a lot of new genes to my collection. And then finally, what was happening is I was selling to people. And then 2-3 years later, I'd see those same people ahead of me, way ahead of me. I'm like, holy shit, his pay, like the stuff he's selling is better than what I have. And he was so much further below me because he was just buying and bringing stuff in. And then I started to kind of figure it out. Like, I need to introduce new genes. And that's what kind of really propelled me the last few years. Right before COVID, I was kind of banking. I was getting lazy with the Black Pastel stuff. Codoms, banana Black Pastel stuff would sell all day for decent money, anywhere from $500 to $1,500 all day. And that was such an easy sale because they're pretty. They're very bright pink, yellow, orange snakes.
Aren't they?
People would just scoop them up. And they still sell pretty good, but I got to have a recessive aspect to it or I'm not doing it. But it's like once I started introducing these new snakes, like I just got a snake today from Dale Richards from Constricted Reptiles. He's been on your show.
Dale's a homie.
Yeah, I got a puzzle head hypo. I don't have any puzzle, nothing. And I've just been listening. Now, like you were saying, it's already been said a couple of times. So people have puzzle, obviously. It's not like I'm going to it's going to be a long road with this puzzle male. But my thing is, and Will Morose put this in my ear back during the summer. I complimented him when you were up there in Canada. You went up and Khalil and Will and you hung out with them. You did a podcast with a bunch of people.
Yeah, I missed them. Shout out to them.
I watched it and I just reached out to Will and I was like, hey, enjoyed you on the podcast. A lot of the stuff you said, it resonated with me. And then he asked me, he's like, do you have any? He's like, I like your Black Pastel line. Do you have any puzzle with that? And I was just like, no. And it stuck in my head to where 4 or 5 months later, finally I pulled the trigger because I started thinking and the wheels were turning and I was looking at what was out there. And the cool stuff to me is puzzle with like busy gene. Like what's cool is super pastel puzzles are awesome. Like they're really pretty yellow, busy pattern snakes, but I don't want to do pastel. I want to take my line of the Black Pastel yellow belly, which on its own gets pretty wild looking, and then even make that wilder with a recessive gene on top of it. I think it could be really down the road that you do some really cool combos. Now, obviously you want to get clown in there immediately too. And I have some DG stuff that would be nice, but it's like, I could still get a male like puzzle head hypo today. And I think I'll do good stuff with it without getting just trounced by the market because there's not that many out there. Like, and they're cool. It's a cool gene. It's recessive. So it's got a little bit of a resistance and a barrier to entry, So it's something that I was just thinking of when you said that.
No, one thing I'm thinking of is I have to make sure we cover this because it's important. More, Black Pastel and hypo, okay, are standing out first and foremost because I saw hypo before I think hypo. Okay, obviously there's pied. And Pied was my very first recessive, but mind you, I saw Pied when I didn't know Pied was. I saw Pied when I just thought it was a snake, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Right? But hypo was my very first, I guess, quote unquote, recessive investment.
Here,
right? Only because I was like this. Like I saw adult versions, and I'm like, "This is what I want." You know what I mean? Because a good quality line of hypo almost keeps the purity of what's in the snake. Like you don't. And what I'm saying is, like, you're gonna see if there's patterns in that snake those patterns aren't going to get washed out with hypo. Like it just, from what I've seen, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I raised. You know, I got my very first hypo, which quote unquote orange ghost, or a pastel, which I didn't know was pastel at the time. Orange ghost Mojave. Okay, her name's Mercedes. She still pops. She's still beautiful to this day, right? And that was my very first, like, you know, bought our Craigslist, but still super stoked. So me, in my eyes, I was like, this hypo shit's for me, okay? And what's crazy is I even had an opportunity to buy some DG head stuff, right? And so I saw DG, and I just saw it by itself, and I was like, no, I want this hypo stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and that was just my my instant train of thought at that time, right? Mind you. Now look at DG, right? Now DG is something where
I slept on that big
right
time.
But I'm still happy that I held down the hypo, because I still got a great line of quality hypo. But why are people thinking that? Because I'll tell you one thing I took aggressive advantage of was people telling me how hypo is just played out. Like, I think this is why about 2019, and people were like, and maybe because I think the DG stuff was just now starting to blossom out, and they're thinking like DG is the new hypo and hypo is not. But I'm like, hold on,
totally different, But
and then totally different when you put them together. Look at DG hypo shit. DG hypo clowns. Oh my god,
and the hypo. Like, I really like hypo. I got it early, and I'm not gonna lie, because it was the cheapest recessive gene I could get at the time. And I was
hold on one second. Keep going. You keep going.
Okay. I was just saying, it was the cheapest recessive gene at the time. And then probably albino and axanthic were the next two above that. You had pied, caramel albino, and then some clown stuff, but that wasn't super readily available. But the hypo itself, I just I got a captive hatch from Outback Reptiles, and Oz picked it up at, I think, a Hamburg show, maybe, brought it home. I bought it from him because I told him to get me one if you see one from Ian. He brought it home, and it was cool. I saw it. I was like, well, it doesn't, you know, as a baby, hypos are kind of, they don't have that full pale whitewash color yet. And I was like, it's all right. So I raised it, and it got to be like a weird kind of grayish look. So it was different, but I bred it to just a bunch of normals, and that's what you did. I was making hits. And then 3 years down the road, I was hitting hypos and selling them. And I think, I'm pretty sure that hypo was not nerd orange line compatible. I'm trying to think what the terminology was. Orange hypo, nerd orange hypo was kind of the industry standard. Okay. I think mine, I heard from some customers, and I would market it as a captive hatched. And they're like, it's not, I bred it to my nerd line and nothing happened. And what really sucked is when you would sell hets and they wouldn't get them. You know, at that point, the easiest thing for me to do would be refund the couple $100 that they bought the het for. But I'm like, it came from my hypo. But eventually I'm like, I just stopped selling them, as I'm like, I don't know what this is. It's a line that I don't know what there's no compatibility. So I sold it all. And I sold it all back to Outback. I said, this is all its own line. I bought it from you ultimately through Oz like 7-8 years ago. And Ian bought it all back because that's what he did. That's nice. Yeah, I didn't get the money I paid for it. Obviously it was maybe a tenth.
I must say, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not saying this is one of your historical stories in your career in the game, but getting sold fake hets was quite a bit of a thing back in the day, wasn't it? I've never been sold a fake het. But I remember that was. But I'm talking. I know you've heard vicious stories within a higher tier of, like, you know, especially the people who are first getting it, like the ones who are like, I'm the first one to even see this. It's a het. This. Crazy. Oh man, like, you know what I mean? Like
the time, like that's where I really like. I'm very anal about what I sell people. Genetically, I still give paperwork, which I think is an
very important. I know. Why not?
I feel like that's kind of gone by the wayside. I'll print up it's a piece of paper with a photocopy of the snake on it, and I'll sign it. I'll sign it and date it right across the bottom of the page, and I'll say, here are the parents, and it was born this date. Here's a picture of it. So if you go to sell it to somebody before you breed it, you can say, I got this from Tom. I can look at the snake from the buyer and say, yeah, because I have a copy too on file. Right. Be like, yeah, I made that snake. But it's I still do that just because that was the standard back in the day. Like, I want paperwork. I want some sort of like, not that it means anything if they're just going to do it for a year or two, then get the hell out of the game. But at least it's one of those deals that made you feel good about buying it. But also, back to my earlier point, don't buy from people you don't know, especially hets. And this was before, like, don't buy from people you don't know. Buy from like, I bought a het. Yeah, a het albino female from Brian Barchek. And I said hypo was my first one. I lied. That het albino female was my first recessive, but my first visual was the hypo for recessives. But yeah, it's big stuff. Years down the road, a year down the road, I got a het male from Ralph. So I had a het albino male that was 50% snake keeper, axanthic, and 50%. It was a weird and VPI. So it was a double pos het for snow, which was a huge thing back in the day. All white snake. This was before the white snake craze. And I bred it to that female from Barchek. And this is granted, it's from Ralph and Brian. 2 times, 2 years, I got 10 eggs total, no visuals. So I bred it again the 3rd year. And out of that 3rd year, I got 3 out of 5 were albinos. And I didn't doubt it. I didn't not think that it wasn't het. It's just one of those deals that, like, I got it from 2 of the industry leaders. And after I got it from them, I learned more about them. Like, these guys are the real deal. These guys are producing just crazy shit back in the day. So I had no doubt that it was het, but it also goes back to keep trying. Like we were saying with those genes, like, you just might have hit an ugly version of it. Try again. If you really like that project and you've devoted time and space in your room and years, do it again. Just make sure that you're not cutting yourself short for any of this stuff, because patience in this, like you were saying, patience is the #1 thing.
That's your best friend.
That's why I'm here 20 years later. Slow and steady.
Yeah.
It wins the race. And don't rush in and try to make $1 million immediately. Like, it's slow and steady.
No, I mean, fuck, man. I just want to, that's what's crazy is, like, you know, first and foremost, $1 million still is a lot of money to this day. It's not what it once was.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, like, I just want to be able to have these animals here. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like if you do things the right way, and especially luck's on your side and you got all the patience in the world, you will be, it's like having an orchard. You know what I mean? Like let's say you did everything right and you have full avocados, you have full of oranges, like all this, like, you know, like, let's say fuck the breeding. Like, let's say this is back in the day and you just have land of just fruit and all this shit. You're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine. You know what I mean? But, like, there's just levels to, like, you know, okay, how much do you want? How much do you, because obviously the more projects, more problems, right? Because I feel like it's so easy to find a happy medium in this fucking thing. Like, you could, and even if it's not hot as it once was, it's low to where you're still in a good place. Like, it's never, like, if you're doing things right, you're never hurting in this game at all, period.
Yeah, and make it attainable for what you can do. Like, I work all day, and I'm back in the office now, so I've lost some time.
Right. And
I'm not going to just breed every female I have. In the past 3 years, that's what I did. Every female that was breedable, I had a male for her, or I had a backup male for her, and I bred them. And now this year, I had 29 clutches, which is a lot for me. I'm typically a 15 to 20 clutch guy, but 29 clutches of really good stuff. But where you're really starting to see is I'm really starting to hit stuff that even shocks me. Like, this is really cool. Like, this is from saving, holding back stuff. That's the key. I used to sell everything to make the money because I'm like, this is great. I can pay for an extra vacation. I can throw a little bit in the stock market, this and that. I didn't reinvest back into the market with buying new stuff. And I didn't hold back I held back some stuff, but not as much as I should have. And it cost me years of growth. Whereas lately I've just been all the good stuff that I make, I pretty much, if it's a female, I'm holding it back. And then as the season goes on and more eggs hatch, that snake that I valued so much in May was trumped 2 other times in July and August by better stuff. So then she might hit the market, but she's really a top-notch, high-end, crazy morph. And it's like, you're constantly just having like that thought process of like, okay, I'm keeping her today, I'm not getting rid of her. And then like, oh no, this one's better, I want to keep that one. Then sometimes you keep both. Like, for me, I look at what people want from me. I'm like, how can I put myself in a better position next year, the year after, and like where am I going to be doing, or what am I going to be doing 5 years down the road with these? And sometimes that's the easy answer. Like, keep it. Do I need the money to like buy anything, or do I need to pay bills? No. So it's going to benefit me to have the more firepower, and then you start to exponentially just produce good stuff. And that's where I'm hoping to be. I'm starting to hit that ascent, but I'm hoping, as I was telling you earlier, I'm concentrating my breedings. I'm not doing breedings just to make like a couple bucks here and there. I'd rather just do stuff that's new and exciting to me, that keeps me interested. Because some breedings you're like, well, I know what that's going to make. No surprises in this clutch.
Right.
But it's going to make me some money. So that's happy.
Right.
But it doesn't make me happy when they hatch, because I'm like, I've seen this 100 times. I want to see new stuff every clutch is the goal. I mean, that's ultimately, that would be great.
What should make, if you're in the right fucking path where, I feel like there's many different right paths, I guess. You could say almost doing anything, having fucking motivation, passion, and so many different things that you could have to make you accomplish anything you want in this fucking world. But in this hobby, I feel like one of the best things you could possibly do is just, like, for instance, I'm going to make a good example here. Like, I couldn't wait to make my first visual clown. I'll never forget my first year breeding. Yeah. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I was like, man, I wish I could make some fucking a visual clown, but I can't. I have to wait. But understand right now, I look to hatch certain double hets. Like, you know what I mean? And I've seen some really fucking cool double het combos. And if you could be excited to be in like besting in the clutches like that, because if you want to hold stuff back anyways, I mean, like we were talking earlier, you could see what the best het is. Like, you could pick like, dude, okay, this is the one I want to keep. This is the one you want to keep. And then do what you want with the rest, right? But like, the visuals come. It's like, God, hey, Dad, you just taught me how to play baseball, and I want to hit a home run. Well, those home runs come, son. You know what I mean? Like, or they come when they come. And the thing is, imagine if you just make double hets, or you do trip, whatever the fuck that you want to make, you just do it in the het. Like, let me make these het versions. That home run you hit 3-4 years down the road, dude, or even 5-6 years down the road, it makes
it'll be a grand slam.
Well, not only that, it puts you on a platform. Now you're on something where you got eyes who not only saw what you just made, but they've been seeing you making these hets. Like, people aren't stupid. Like, the ones who are, some are, but I'm just saying, for the most part, ones who are really about this shit, the ones that I know that are just doing the research, being a part of the right Patreon groups, like really fucking dedicating their shit, they are watching people. They see certain people who are making certain hets, making certain visuals, and they pay attention. They follow. That's why you follow somebody, right? But I'm telling you, once that time comes and you've been just doing your thing and you finally hit what you wanted to hit, and it's something that took you 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah,
bro, it's over. Like, there you go. That's, if you really want to know, that's, yeah.
And that's the thing. This will be my 21st year of being in the ball pythons. I didn't start breeding obviously for a year or two after I started collecting. But 21 years, and it gets better. You would think you get burned out and get sick of it, but it gets better because the potential and it's like gambling almost. Like, but you're stacking the deck in your favor more and more each year as you refine your hets and your visuals, and like, it's just, I love when stuff's hatching. Like, it's like
your favorite holiday. It's like like, imagine your favorite, like Christmas, but I know there's some horror fucking Halloween fanatic weirdo Matthew Summers, but there's people like whatever your favorite holiday is. Imagine that. That's what this shit, this ball python, it's a holiday. It's like, and if you really enjoy it, you'll never get sick of it. And that's a serious thing. Like, there's people obviously out there who are just like, oh, I can't wait for the next Halloween. And there's this Christmas fanatics, but when that time is happening, they're the happiest person in the world. And that's what this snake game is. If you're doing things right, you're a good person, good business practices and all that stuff, you're having fun. It never gets old. It never gets old.
Yeah. And you still, and I know you're the same way. I still look at my snakes, like, admire them. Like, I just posted a picture of a snake tonight on Instagram before this, and I still look at it, and I'm still trying to figure out what the heck is all in there, but I still admire it. Like, that's a unique looking combo. Like, I still am in awe at the stuff that I've seen 100, 200 times in my RHACS, where I'm like, man, that looks awesome. And as they grow, they kind of change a little bit, some for the good, some for the bad. But the ones that change for the better as they put on weight and age, you're like, holy shit, whatever's going on here, I've got to figure out how to keep that going, because most snakes will dull and brown as they get older, but some don't. And when you find those, you're like, well, I can't sell that. Like this is something I thought about selling, but it's getting crazier looking as it grows. And it has something a little bit weird to begin with. I want to harness whatever that is, figure it out. Now, the problem with me with a small collection, it's hard to figure shit out. Like I need volume and I need to see it over and over and over. And this is where the genetic testing comes into play. And another aspect is me with Spectre. I've been working with Spectre for, I don't know, 12, 13 years.
What is Spectre? Help me, please. Because some of this stuff, after a while, I just tune out. And I'm sorry, but Spectre's been one of those. So help me, please.
So back in the day, there was yellow bellies combined with a gene. It was called the Spectre.
Okay, I remember.
Created the super stripe. So the Spectre is the other half of the super stripe, but it's not nearly, to me at least, some people can see it better and they claim they can pick them out a lot better than I can. Spectres look more like a normal to me. Now they do have a thicker stripe down the back sometimes, most of the time, but sometimes they don't. And when you start adding other genes in there, I lose it. I have a hard time picking them out. Now I have some super Spectre stuff, so that makes it a little bit easier. But back in the day, there was also, it's funny because there was another form of Spectre that was called the Whirlwind, which a guy, Anthony McCain, had.
Of course.
And Anthony had an eye for this shit though. Like he passed away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But he was about my age. He was one of those guys that he was funny, but he's very nice to me. He always sent me messages. But I met him at some shows. I met him at Tinley. And he was one of those guys who would pick out these freaking morphs. Like I think he had mystics because there was phantoms, which Ralph had, and which the phantoms created mixed with a Mojave Purple Passion, and mystics were from Anthony, I believe, because I traded him a Black Pastel Yellow Belly way back in the day for a mystic female, and I made a lot of cool shit with that. But he was another one of those old time guys. Wasn't old, but he was just back in the day, like constantly like pulling unique looking stuff and trying to prove it out. And he hit on what he called the Whirlwind, which was a kind of a funny thing because everyone would just bust his balls about. It's a Spectre. Just call it a Spectre. And this is where you had two of the same gene that people were just not relenting. And they're like, no, I want to call my version this and your version that. But it's that's like, what it's
like Peyton Sentinel.
Yeah.
God damn it. Just call it Paint. I like Paint though. Yeah. Like, come on, man. What is this? Transformers? Like, what are we talking here? Like,
then you have Banana Coral Glow.
That right there. Banana. I have banana. I was always a banana guy, and Coral Glow. Like, I get.
Mine as a banana.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's a.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say there's so many. Like, it's funny to go back and think about that. Where that doesn't happen as much anymore. But back in the day, you'd have a lot of you'd have fire, flame, sauce, ember were all fires, and flame, ember, and fire all make sense. I don't know what the hell where sauce came from, but I'm pretty sure that was just a fire too. I might be wrong on that one.
What do you know about campfire?
I like it. You asked me too quick because I can't think of what's in it. I've looked at it. I've looked at it before, and I'm like, I want to make one of those because I heard Bob talking about it on a podcast, and they're badass looking. But I can't think of what's in there. But I don't think I'm far off from making it. I just would have to combine the right, What the hell? Do you know what it is? Or
no? I and what's funny is like
it's cool.
And I think here's the thing. This is why this shit gets so confusing.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking of campfire, but I'm not. I'm thinking of something called the circus gene. Have you ever heard of the circus gene from back in the day?
I think the name sounds familiar, but for the life of me, I can't think of what it looks like. Is it something to do with clowns?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it has something to do with clown. Yeah, and this is early 2000s. Dave Levinson told me this story when he first came on Unfiltered years ago. About not that long, but like 4 years ago. So that was the one. But also campfire is the one that people are still having their collection. They work with. But the circus thing, that's the one I heard.
Yeah, the campfire was a combination, and I think Dale
got it. Look, Dale got it. Calico, Anchi, cinnamon / Black
And I think
Pastel.
he's right. And that's the thing. We all have that. Like most people have that in the collection. I just don't have it together. But Calico and those darker genes, Calico is still cool. I still like Calico. That's something that you can kind of pull from the dead of many years ago and still do some good stuff with.
Speaking of good stuff, when did the Black Pastel become something like you were like that confident that this was going to be it? Like, was it a certain project that took off for you, or like when was it when this birthed? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
It was 2008, like to be exact, because I
Okay.
remember I got married in 2008 and we were going on our honeymoon. And right before our honeymoon, I had a Black Pastel male. I got it as a captive hatched import from Ian from Outback. That's how I got most all my shit from back in the day, because he was local. I mean, he only lived like an hour
Wow.
south of me in Virginia.
Okay.
And Oz and I would go to his house when he would import stuff, and you just look through bins and bags of snakes, which was kind of cool back in the day, because there was still stuff that was just, you didn't know what it was, but you could get those orange dreams. And for me, I got a Black Pastel. Oz and I went down and we were that was our goal, to get Black Pastels. Ian had two. They were unrelated and they looked drastically different. One looked more like a cinnamon, and it was a Black Pastel, but it just wasn't anything to write home about. The other one looked busy and orange and nice. Oz had already spent a ton of money with Ian and he was pretty in a happy place. And then we saw the Black Pastels. He asked me, he's like, which one do you want? And without even like thinking, I'm like, obviously I want the nice looking one, the pretty one. And he kind of laughed. He's like, we'll trade babies. You can have some of this. Well, I'm like, that's fine. And we have. Well, I didn't really take any of his, but he's gotten mine over the years. But it was cool. We bought those snakes, and so 3 years went by. It wouldn't breed. It was a dud. And I was like, at the time, I spent $6,000 on that snake, on a single gene codom, incomplete dominant snake. Didn't breed for me. Yeah, and every year, this is back in the race to the bottom years, where every year it was an 8,000 market price snake that we got a deal, because we did a package. We got both of them, so we got them for $6 each. But by the time it bred, the snake was probably $1,000. They were $1,000 for Black Pastels, maybe, for babies. And three years later, it took 3 years for that thing to breed. And like I said, I was going on a honeymoon. I had a clutch pippin, and actually 1 or 2 had come out, and it was just crazy looking. It was from that Black Pastel to a yellow belly female. That was it. Nothing special. But out of that clutch, it was 5 or 6 eggs. I got 3 of them. I hit 3 of the combos, and they were all just like burgundy, brick red kind of tones on the belly. And then the really pixelated pattern, like really like a shatter pattern with the yellows and the browns. It was crazy looking. I was like, oh my God.
What year was this again?
2008. And it sucks because a lot of these forums that used to be around would have a lot of these posts that I would started putting. That's when people started like really associating me with the Black Pastel. But it really didn't take hold until a year or 2 later. I combined it with Het Red Axanthics and made what was called, it was already produced by Heather Wong, and she's out your way.
Right.
She produced an onyx. So it was a Het Red Axanthic Black Pastel, silver and black snake. And I thought it was awesome looking because it looked like an axanthic, but a codon or a dominant axanthic. At the time, I didn't know it was allelic. So it was a super form kind of the 2 genes. I mean, whereas the allelic genes only spit out one or the other genes, no normals.
I'm gonna show you right now one of the snakes that, like, very first snake I ever saw. That literally I stared at it for a long time, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And I'll never forget this snake. And I noticed that this kind of color, this kind of thing was going around in your project.
Yeah, that's my hand.
That's your count.
Because I looked, I was like, "That's a nice looking snake." I was like,
"No, that's yours. That's yours. This is yours."
Yeah.
So
that's from a long time. Well, that's from like 6 years ago.
2018. Yeah,
okay.
2018.
Yeah. Now, okay, that's an interesting snake there, because that's the thing. What you just said, and it took me a while, because you asked, when did I discover it? Well, right. I had that Black Pastel yellow belly stuff. I was like, well, I'm waiting for other people to produce this, because years went by. I'm like, when are people going to produce Black Pastel yellow bellies that look like mine? They're just not working the project, so no big deal. Right. Then the onyx yellow belly was crazy looking. That's another thing that's just wild. It's hard to describe. But when I got to this is another thing. This is a yellow belly, orange dream, Black Pastel. I think this is calico. Is this a calico version?
Black Pastel yellow belly OD.
Okay, the calico version is crazier looking, and you know who's taking the calico.
Is it far from this? Because I'm in your album right here, buddy. We got all the good stuff right here. I don't know if you could scroll up or see. Look at this. This is nuts.
Okay, you know what's funny about that snake?
This is beautiful, bro.
This is funny. I was telling somebody recently, this isn't a crazy. This is Mojave, Black Pastel, yellow belly clown. 4 of the oldest genes we have. all together in the right combination. That's why don't give up on those old genes. The resurrection of red stripe, blackhead, all that stuff came back and looked awesome. Now, the funny part about this snake, first visual clown I've hatched, I hatched on my own, was this snake.
Jeez.
Like, I hatched a combination.
On your own?
Well, I say that because Oz and I did some breeding
Collaboration
back in the day where I had a pastel clown or two I hatched in 2012. But from 2012 to this is 2018 too, I believe. Right. For 6 years, I didn't produce any more clowns. Then I had this clutch, and it's like, holy shit. This thing to me, I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I didn't even know this was Black Pastel at first. I thought it was a Mojave yellow belly clown. And then people started chiming in like, no, that's Black Pastel. And so, it is.
So check this out. This is what I want, and this is for anybody who just doesn't have the eye. And no offense, I'm not saying I'm Mr. fucking eyeball, but there are things that make me so easy on keeping back a certain head. And if we look at this beautiful visual here, right? Look at the like, I don't want to say but like the scalation. Like, do you see how you could easily see the scales? Like, not only throughout the body, but on the head. You could visually see healthy scales on this animal. That's a high quality animal, in my opinion. And there are certain hets with this kind of quality that these visuals carry, that even though it's not the visual, quote unquote, there's some of the, if you look at your head and it's this popping with the scales and it's this, just, I'm telling you right now, these are just small things to look at when looking at heads and looking at the ones that keep back. This is just a gorgeous animal, man.
Yeah,
like,
this snake,
I can't believe it.
Yeah, I still have her. And I'm breeding,
what does she look like now? I'm curious.
Now she's faded. So she's not
man.
She doesn't have the contrast that she has there. I have a picture somewhere I just sent. I'm trying to think, what the heck am I? Oh, I'm putting
this is cool.
A confusion het clown on her right now, just to make confusion version of that.
Okay, let's talk about something kind of, it's unfortunate, but maybe fortunate. Who knows? Pastel and cinnamon. Yikes. I don't know. Definitely, I had a lot of raise up cinnamon, pastel cinnamon clown stuff, right? And I'm like, dude, I just don't like how this stuff looks. You know what I mean? But then I have other stuff I have other stuff with pastel. I have other stuff with pastel that it's reversed. You know what I mean? But pewter. What are your thoughts on pewter?
I still like pewter. Like, I'm still old. I still have that old school mentality where the combinations were never a deterrent or a bad thing. Not that they're bad now, but going into, here's an example. I like pewter. I think pewter clowns. I have a couple pewter yellow belly clowns in my collection. They look great, but they're hard to sell because of pastel. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Anything with pastel in it is a difficult sell anymore. And I don't like to discount my shit because it has pastel in it.
Yeah.
Now pastel puzzle, like I said earlier, looks great. Pastel DG looks great. It's just one of those things that, like, the market has soured on it, but it was such a staple. Like I was telling you, that was my first co-dom or incomplete dominant snake I ever bought, was a pastel, because they're pretty. Super pastels are great. Think about whatever, I think it's called a killer bee is a super pastel spider.
Right.
Think about how pretty of a snake that is. Oh, that's cool. Think about how pretty of a snake that is, but nobody in their right mind who's breeding would buy a killer bee anymore. Like,
I mean,
it's a hard sell. Now, if you're breeding for enjoyment and you like the very pretty yellow and the pattern of the spider, okay, but it's hard to sell both of those genes. But it's such a nice combination in my eyes, because I was attracted to that like a moth to a light back in the day. Like, holy shit, look at the pastel and the spider combinations. That was mind blowing.
Right. One thing I got a lot of excitement going into this episode from viewers right now is the fact that you have a line of morph, like, and like, for instance, there's a Barnhart Black Pastel yellow belly line, or what does it mean when you put your name in front of the morph?
I'm glad you asked me this, because I don't want to go back. I don't want to like get into the fray of like, I'm trying to rename Black Pastel to something that's not. It's a Black Pastel. I was always in denial that mine was special. And like you said, I'm not sure when the light bulb went off, but enough people tell you, and I did a couple Tinleys back in the day, and people were telling me in 2012, like, your shit is different. And when enough people tell you, you start to like, you view it with a different set of like eyes, because you're like, I'm viewing it as it's just a Black Pastel line. But what I wasn't seeing is other people doing what I was doing with their lines. And then when you would see you would see people's combos next to mine. I was like, oh, there's something going on there. So what I started doing, and this was just, it wasn't a sales thing, but people started calling it the Barnhart line, not me. But I was like, okay, that's my line. I'll accept that. And I can spot it with pretty good accuracy. If someone sends me a picture of a snake, a black pastel, and they're like, is this your line? I can never tell them yes, but I can say it has characteristics that appear to be. Who did you get it from? That's the best I can do. I can't say yes or no. I can say it looks like it, but I can't guarantee that. And people want me to guarantee it. I'm like, well, I'm not that good. But the thing is, like with me putting Barnhart now is to avoid confusion, because I used to just put black pastel, yellow belly, het clown for sale. And people are like, is this a Barnhart line? And I'm like, yeah. And I said, like, everything I have is my line. I don't have any other lines in the RHACS because I don't want confusion. I don't want to ever sell anything that's not claiming what it is.
Respect. Also,
it'd be funny too, because people would get excited because they wouldn't realize at first that my name's Tom Barnhart, that they'd see the snake.
That's me.
Well, no. Yeah, but like if you're buying a Barnhart line black pastel and you see Tom Barnhart selling it, you'd assume that it's my line, like me personally. So people would get excited after an email or two, like, "Oh, you're Tom Barnhart." I'm like, well, "Yeah, that's the name of the email you're sending." I just found that funny, but I put it to avoid confusion, because I don't have to answer that question, because you try to put as much shit in your ad as you can, so people look at it and can make the decision. Other than, can you send me a belly pic or can you send me like a video? That's fine. I get. But when you put it's eating rat pups and they ask what it's eating, or you put it's 100 grams, and I posted it yesterday. What's the weight today? Well, it's 100 grams.
Right.
So I try to give that information out so I don't have to answer the question, because the more I just want people to have all the knowledge there and then go from make their decision based on that. But yeah, I put Barnhart not as a cocky thing, like where I'm like, man, this is my line. Don't look at any other lines. It's more of a just for clarification. All my shit's Barnhart, but here it is. So you don't ask what line, if it's my line, it is.
But at the end of the day, the reason why you're doing that is because it gets to a point where you're the only one with this quality of black pastel, enough to where people are coming back to you asking you for that line. You know what I mean?
I was in denial for years. Yes.
Right.
Because I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not a guy to sell.
But the writing's on the wall here, Tom.
Yeah. Right. And it took me a while. I was probably the last one to see it, but I had big names telling me like that. I mean, Oz was telling me for years. He's like, you got something special in your line. He's like, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out, but I don't know what it is. It just is what it is. It's almost like I liken it to his high OD. His high OD stuff, you can't quantify exactly why or how it works, but it works. But it's not like every other snake, or 50% are high, 50% aren't. It just kind of happens. And I've had, similar to pieds, I've had like the more normal looking black pastels throw crazy shit, and the crazy shit throw normal stuff. A lot of it is what you mix it with. Certain things seem to unlock the potential. Yellow belly is one of them. OD I'm finding is one of them. And this is going to the simple stuff, like the dominant and incomplete dominant unlock stuff that unlocks. Orange Dream unlocks a pretty good color, like that one you were showing earlier. That orange, I mean, it's hard to describe what even orange, what it is in reality. I could compare that to, because it's brighter and more peachy than an orange, like a regular orange you would eat. It's got like a peach tone to it, or like I don't know, just almost like that stuff that MARC, the Super Orange Dream. Oh, that's a good one too. The Super Orange Dream Hypo Pied, that orange. But okay, this is wild looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna get your blood going here, because we're getting we're not there yet, but I want you to have a killer hot seat question segment. Okay, so we're gonna kind of get warmed up here, because we got something that I'm very, like, I hate to hurt my friends' feelings, but it's also fun at the end of the day. It's on a playful level, obviously. And what I mean by that, you got a bunch of we were talking about the team hypo, team DG thing, right? Well, let's talk about the good old team Ultramale versus team Monarch.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Now, mind you, I gotta say, there's been a lot more Ultramale stuff to be proven that Ultramale is definitely something you should always respect. Ultramale is obviously here to stay. A lot more relevant. I mean, I don't want to get into the sunset talk. I don't want to go down that route. But Ultramale, I'm happy. I'm happy with Ultramale and what it's done and what it's going to continue to do. But that Monarch Clown combo, I think it was leopard and yellow belly, or maybe I forget. But you know that Monarch Clown that Justin hatched out last year,
I saw the video. Yeah,
that right there smacked me in the face, man. It really did, and it got me excited. But I'm not telling you like, oh, it's over for. It's not over for anything.
No.
It's a different. I just love that. I love that this was the proof that these two things are different. They are different.
And it kind of, from what I see from the Monarch, and I was not heavy, but like I was excited about the Caramel Albino project back in the early 2000s, because that was the first Ultramel. Essentially, if you looked at it, it had the like the different tones that were similar to Ultramel, but more of an orangey kind of look. I really liked it. That was my first double recessive project, Caramel Glows, Caramel and Hypo. I worked that for years until I realized that the females sucked. And that's what it was. Nobody knew, or people knew. People always know shit sucks. They just don't want to release it because they're heavily invested. I mean, they're good people will say, but some people would just keep marketing that. And you buy these Caramel Albinos and they kink like crazy. They were pretty snakes, but I sold all of that collection again, all of the caramel stuff I was working with years down the road. I mean, recently, a few years back, I got a female from Ken Masick, an Ultramel, and he had one up for cheap one day. And
is that guy still around? I heard that name before. Is that guy still around?
Yeah, he's down in Florida. He used to live in Chicago area, I believe, in Illinois, and then he moved to Florida a few years ago. And he's an older guy. He's been around for a while, but he had an Ultramel female, and I got it super cheap, and I trusted him because he was a name that I had been following and watching on the forums and through the years. So that's why I got the Ultramel. The Monarch at the time, it was around, I think, but there wasn't many. I mean, Tom Harbin probably was producing them. They were probably 10 times more expensive than an Ultramel at that moment when I bought mine. Now, where I want to go with that is the Monarch's good, but the Ultramel to me, it has more color. The Monarch is more of it's like a brick red and cream color, a little bit darker, but I can see that being unlocked with certain combinations. You take it down the right road,
right, and
you can do some really good stuff with it. You take the Ultramel down a similar or different road, and it depends on what your preference is with that. I think it's kind of like with cinnamon, like you were saying with cinnamon and black pastel. They both have super forms that look similar, but one's more rounded and bubbly and has more of a cinnamon color. The other one has more of an orangish, jagged edge look, and that's the black pastel. That's what I was attracted to. I see value in both. I would like to have some Monarch stuff, but I'm trying to draw a line with how many recessives I want to work with based on space, and like I was saying earlier.
I think no matter what you are, you're in a good place. I feel like no matter what you're working with, you're not going to go wrong with either or. I really
yeah. And that snake you had up on the screen, that was a badass first. That was my second attempt to make hets with this double hets with this Monarch. Right. I had some adult female black pastel yellow belly double het, not Monarch, Ultramel clowns that I hatched out a few years ago, and that's great. And this one here, so this is a leopard. This is my guess. It looks to me like a leopard, Mojave, black pastel yellow belly, double het Ultramel clown, female. Now I say that because the male, I didn't realize he was a Mojave. He was I thought he was a black pastel yellow belly leopard clown. He was a Mojave too, from that female that we looked at earlier.
Right.
That really nice looking clown.
Okay.
So I found out this year that he had Mojave, and so I got a lot of Mojave in my collection. It's okay. Cool. I'm not a huge Mojave fan. It's okay.
It's not the end of the world either.
No, it's more genes sometimes are better. But okay, this is a good one too.
Yeah,
that was the first pick I took of this one. This was like a first shed, so it probably might have had a meal at this point, may not have.
So what? Hold on. What I was going to say though, Tom, before you go off on this one, I want to no, you're good. I'm excited with you, because we're looking at a snake right here that potentially has a codom that could. I mean, here's the thing. Me, I have this thing where like if it makes an awesome looking super, that's the codom to work with, right? But then there's also codoms like yellow belly that make an ivory, but yellow belly, goddamn, what a crucial recipe to so many awesome things, right? And then there's also spot nose, because from what I understand that this was a dual clutch a project or a dual sire clutch or something like that.
This one I posted a sibling to this one today on Instagram.
Yeah, this one right here, right? This one right here.
That's it as an adult. Well, not an adult. That's it after meals. The one right next to it, right there. Go straight down. Oh, you had it. Yeah, that one.
This one right here.
No, the one right there. Yeah.
Okay.
If you read the description, that one is the clutch mate to the one you just showed from my
Epic.
memory.
Okay.
Now, this is a weird one because this one has a unique color. It's got like a really nice
gold.
Yeah, like I don't want to say orange, but it's more of an orange brown, like a gold.
Like a
Now,
nice
at
quality
first-
bronze.
Yeah, because at first I was like, "Is this a Batman?" But it looks nothing like a Batman if you look at Batman.
No, right.
Because I thought the spot nose fathered this clutch, but I think it could have been it could have been the spot nose because what the hell am I? No, it could have been because this is a leopard. I think it's a leopard specter, black pastel clown, I believe.
Possible spot nose.
Possibly, yeah, I think so. Because I'm trying to think of the fathers. Yeah. Because Yellow Belly was in the other male and spot nose. Yeah, because the female was a black pastel specter leopard het clown. So yeah, it could have all that stuff.
Male or female? I'm sorry.
That's a female, and as soon as she hatched, I'm like, one, I can't accurately identify. It would have to be one of those theoretical things, which I don't like doing. I don't like doing pos this, pos that, because you're giving away something at the end of the day.
Potentially, yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah. And I look at it, I'm like, you know what this would replace? My het version mother 2 years down the road. And that's where my mind is with especially with if there's any slowdown in the market, I want a rack full of this shit as opposed to a rack full of black pastel het clowns. Why not? Why not get the best of the best in there that you're going to get the best bang for your buck? I only need 15 clutches, 20 clutches a year to do really well with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the beauty about you doing what you love. I mean, you could keep or sell this, but at the end of the day, you're going to keep it, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is nuts looking. I got to say, there's, even just certain patterns that just stick out. And whatever's going down this thing's spine.
Yeah.
This is nice looking, Tom. I'm not going to lie.
It's unique because I kept waiting because I kind of wanted to figure out what the hell I was looking at. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say what the pairing was and just put it out there. And it's just a nice snake. I mean, it's a really cool looking snake. And that other one you had, which I think you hooked up with me this weekend on that post of the super stripe leopard clown, the one that you showed right before that one, the clutch mate.
Right.
That thing gets me excited because here's the deal. There's been a couple super stripe clowns produced and pictures posted of them, but for the most part, they're regular super stripe clowns or they're lesser butter super stripe clowns. And somebody has this version with, they're saying it's this version with OD, which looks pretty cool. But where I see this is, what can I add to this now? Because I don't think black pastel is in here. Oz told me he thinks it might be. I would think it would be a different color. I think it would be a deeper orange or copper color if it had black pastel. But I just look at this as like, this is the start. Where do I go from here? Because all this is leopard. Right. You look at super stripe as its own thing. Clown is its own thing. Then you start sprinkling in black pastel, leopard, orange dream. And I look at this as just a blank, and it's not a blank palette, obviously, but it's a great starting point to get better. And the genetic stripe clown stuff is a really nice, that's a nice project. But people, I think, are sleeping on the super stripe clown because super stripe kind of was pushed by the wayside with the highways and asphalts and gravels.
Right.
And I understand that because those things make crazy looking combos. But where those yellow belly complex, where it all started when you asked about Spectre was, I think it was Spectre, then Puma, and then like the gravel highway stuff. Puma made with yellow belly, I think it's Puma. What the hell was that even called? It made a really narrow striped looking animal, like the super stripe with a narrower stripe.
You're not talking about Spark, right?
Yeah, maybe Spark was the Spectre and Puma was the combo. Maybe that's what I'm thinking, which makes, I don't know how Spark gets to a Puma, but it is what it is. That kind of pushed the super stripe aside a little bit, but it was still relevant. Then the highway shit and like super gravel and super asphalt, really, you're like, wow, that's game changing. So I want to kind of use that as my yellow belly complex, pairing. Well, I still think, like I said, these old genes, they never go away. You just have to bring them back in the right context.
I'll never forget, like, one of the biggest, like I said, I came into this Kodam heavy just because that's all I knew. But I also have a good eye for Kodam stuff. And one of my very first super Kodam lover was the the gravel, super gravel, and
Yeah.
and I was like, oh damn, these things are expensive, you know what I mean? And this is like 2019, 2018. And then I walk around. This was the very first show I ever been at. Maybe if I'm not paying attention, but I'm seeing proven breeders for like $800, $700, and I'm like, what? Why? Like how? And for whatever reason, I guess they're not selling. But I just made some super gravel combos with GHI Mojave in it. And I'll be damned if I fucking sell anything at that price. Like there's something missing here. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's the panic happening in the hobby. I don't know what it is, but I'll just keep it. If that's the case.
Yeah, that's my mentality too with that.
Yeah,
like I'm holding steady. Somebody asked me the other day, I was getting rodents and they asked me like, are you dropping your prices? I'm like, no. I'm like, it depends on what it is. Like, sure, some things. My stuff, my bread and butter that has got me here and has gotten people to visit, like, my Facebook page and reach out to me. No, I'm not. Right. Now, males, possibly. You might get a male cheaper than you would last year. But females, nah. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep them and grow them. And, it's not I'm going to wait it out. If it's not selling as a hatchling, it will sell at 500 grams or it'll sell at 1,000. And I think, I price it accordingly. So
well, here's the thing, because at the end of the day, once people see super gravel in a DG clown, or they see super gravel and it's everything changes. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important just to sit on it and just chill out and don't do desperate things during desperate times. Like that's like, if anything, you invest during desperate times. You know what I mean? Like this is when you capitalize. So what I'm saying is, if you ever really want to gravel, go get that shit right now. That's all I got to say. If you can, you know what I mean? Don't let that shit just sit on the table, because there's so much you can do with that, as far as with the double and triple recessive projects.
Yeah. Like when you say that, you say invest, like, what do you think about, like, this market has never been a pet market for the shit we're selling. No. Now I sell stuff to some local pet stores, but it's not, it's low end stuff that you're not trying for. So, and I guess inflation and whatnot is probably hurting people, but I'm still investing in what makes me money and I enjoy, which is this. Like, I'm still looking at it as an investment, not a place to put frivolous extra money, because it never has been. Because during the 2008 crash, which was when they flooded the market with all of these just dominant codoms, it crashed pretty good for over those years, but it bounced back. And I remember multiple times when I was younger, just saying, I think I'm just going to sell, because think of all the rat money I'll save each month. Yeah. How much am I spending on rats at? Back in the day, a couple $100, that's a car payment. I now have a car payment. And if my shit's not selling, I would call Oz panic, like every year or so. Be like, what are you doing? What's going on? He's like, just calm down, like, wait it out. It'll pick up. And it has every time. I think this time we just have more players.
Too many new players. Too many
too many new players and too much social media.
It's good, right? Too much too much influence. Like too much. Like you're listening to people who aren't even in the game for longer than 2 years. Like like you're listening to people who aren't even selling anything. Like just stop. I'm still super excited. Those snakes you just put up there, that ultramel, double head ultramel clown. I can't wait for that female to be ready to breed, because that gets me excited. Like. And if I wasn't in it for the excitement, like, you gotta be motivated for what you're doing. Like, you can't just buy in and be a nobody and expect to sell. Now you got to hustle, but where I became somebody is you slowly post pictures. You slowly, like, talk to people on forums. I met some people back in the day when I would do shows, and you just build a reputation where people will send you thousands of dollars for a snake through the internet or via a money order back in the day. And you send them a snake, and it's like, that's trust, but you got to build up to that. You can't just come in last year and kind of be in the shadows and expect to breed and sell immediately. You will. If you produce quality stuff, people notice you. Like, if you stand out from the crowd and nobody knows your name, but you're like, holy shit, that guy, I've seen him now a couple of times put out some just hellaciously crazy combos that take a lot of effort and money and years to make. He's putting out stuff that is better than me. I have no idea who he is. I'll buy from him. I'll kind of feel him out a little bit, talk to some people like, hey, you know so-and-so, and once you find a couple people that vouch for him that you trust, I've done that multiple times, just over the past couple of years buying. I'm like, hey, I don't know this guy, but he's got some killer stuff, and his line, not his line, but the shit he's working with is what I want in my collection. I only want the best. I don't want the run-of-the-mill examples. I want the best of the best
if I just got into blackhead a few years ago, and
oh man, blackhead is fucking woo.
yeah,
I love
I
black.
slept-
And
I
just
slept on
blackhead
it.
clown, just a
Yeah.
simple blackhead
Yep.
clown is like, wow, this is sick.
And
You know what I
then
mean?
think it's a super form that's not a solid snake. It's a super
Right.
form that's better.
That's
But
better.
like Will Nussman is a guy I buy blackhead ship
Yeah,
from
Will's
because
the
he
man.
produces
Shout out to Will.
quality. And then Dennis McNamara down in
Dennis,
Virginia
that's my
Beach,
boy. That's my
I
boy.
bought mine from him because I told him, I was like, man, I
Dropping
didn't
heat.
know you hardly at all because we never crossed paths. But I saw your stuff and I'm like, you are producing the hottest looking blackhead clowns that I can, because I like the busyness and I like the craziness. And
should I whip one out? Should I whip out a Dennis McNamara fucking blackhead clown? Yeah, what? Hold on. Oh, do I have one? Hold on.
They're the best.
Oh, it's a pistol.
Oh yeah, see that's what I'm saying. Like it's like the busy pattern and the contrast of colors. I look at that as I want to work. I like busy, all the busy stuff in the clowns. I like to throw, my black pastels into, and I think that'll be a great combo. That's what I'm talking about. The color, the light head, and just the crazy pattern up the side. And even like a puzzle version of that, puzzle clown blackhead, that's stuff that hasn't even been made yet. But I was saying blackhead puzzle clown. Think about that. Like, take that and just keep going, with it. It's never ending, and that's why it's like when people are getting out and they're done, I'm like, this never ends. In our lifetime, it never ends. Will said it best. He's like, we'll be dead, and there'll still be just endless combos to do because even if the morphs stop, nobody brings in another mutation ever, or no other ones are ever like brought to the limelight. What we have will never end in our lives. It just won't.
I got to tell you, man, it is mind-boggling. Anyone who'd want to get out, definitely during a time like this. But
it's so hot.
But dude, not everyone has it. And what I mean by that, like not everyone is really in it for the same reason. I can't speak for you, Tom, but I genuinely love snakes. I'm not in this to become mind you, I will say one thing. I can't X out the ball python game because now you made, there's a possibility if you're known to make such a high quality of something, that could be your line. I want to be known for a high quality line of something. I love my name too, right? But I'm just saying, I'm going to do what you did. I'm going to wait until I have numerous people for years just telling me, listen, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm in no rush. Once that day happens, I'm stoked. But that is a goal for me. I'm not going to lie. For me to have a line with my name on it, that's the highest quality of what it is. That could be my only goal. But in a non-cocky way. And the reason why I work and the reason why I'm
listening to what people are saying.
And the reason why I'm obsessed with green tree pythons and emeralds is because it's way easier to be known of a high, obviously ball python, it could happen too, right? But we're talking about something that's not worked with nowhere nearly as much as ball pythons. And I love snakes to listen, I love being young. I love anything that makes me think of being a kid again, Tom. That's just me. And these chondros, these emeralds, I geeked out over zoo books since I was like knee high, you know what I mean? And that's what I chase. But the ball python too, I know that there's things that I hope I live to see someday. Probably not, but it's never how can you get sick of it? Unless your heart wasn't in it in the right place to begin with, unless you had other intentions, unless you're more of a fish person, that's fine. That's the only type of people I see not staying around are the ones who think this is a cool investment and I could be Miguel Garcia. That ain't nothing. Shit. But it's like, no, hold on. That guy actually fucking loves the animals. And
because that's the thing. When times are slow or times are tougher, like now, either you're in it or you're not. And it's like you were saying before, I had snakes growing up. I would collect garter snakes in Maryland and keep them for a week or two. And then let them go. And I always loved snakes. And my sister had a ball python when she was in high school that we both took care of it. And there was never an intent of, I didn't even know what sex it was. I assumed it was probably a male. We got it at a pet store. But and then I would find the milk snakes out in the fields and collect those because those were more, they kind of had a brighter looking monarch colors, like that brick red and cream, the cool as shit looking. And then black snakes, you know, I would get any snake I could. Now, fortunately, there's not a lot of venomous around here. There's copperheads, but for the life of me, I've only encountered them maybe once or twice in my life. But I was always a snake guy before the ball pythons, and that's how Oz and I started talking, because I had a king snake, a California king snake at the time, as a pet, and somehow he had some boas, and I said, yeah, I have a king snake. And then we would get online. He's like, oh, you should check out this ball python stuff. And I was like, yeah, I had one earlier. They're, you know, they're okay. But he's like, look at the colors and stuff. And like, I never saw a colorful ball python. I only knew the black and brown one that I had. So that's kind of how it all started. He reinvigorated my fire, because I was a one snake pet guy. I had a pet snake, and that was it. And that thing lived. It was 26. It passed a couple years ago. But he got me. He's the one that opened my eyes to the ball python mutations and morphs. And then I was just like, this is really cool. But
and it just took off from there. Like the whole eye-opening thing is like, that's just like I always say, I'll never forget seeing my very first banana. Like that was but like we're looking at, we're almost looking at the exact new bananas of these things that are like, holy shit. Now we're talking about age not being a factor. Now we're talking about age age being on our side. Hold on. Like that's the future. Like that shuts any hater up. You can't hate if it looks beautiful. And like I said, it could get confusing, guys. Strap on. And what I mean by that is, I'm just now in the position where I could be breeding my DG clown stuff, right? But guess what? There's something better than a DG clown out there, and it's called a white lace clown. And I'm only saying from what I saw, because I saw a DG clown, and then I saw a white lace clown right there in front of my face. I think the white lace was actually a little bit older than the DG clown, and the white lace looked better. And that, I couldn't believe it, bro.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in person, but I was kind of shocked when I saw what a white lace looked like on the video Justin made a few months back. Maybe I was like, holy shit! I never thought that's what it did. Like it was just like, to me, I was like, oh my god, there could be a brighter version of this.
Yeah,
that we just don't know about.
But I'm talking like, you know, like DG clown. You know, a little bit of fading, but not much. But it fades. It does fade as they get older. It's just not. It's not a pastel clown fade. It's just. You could see it more. But the white lace, you see it. Like you could see it. It's not. I mean, it's not a bold marking like if it's a hatchling, but it's still easily there, and it makes you be excited that you have an adult that looks like that, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I see one in person. I have to get to a major show though. That's my problem.
We just got to go hang out at Justin's together, bro. Let's just go hang out at Justin's.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I've bought some stuff from Justin over the years, so he's well aware of me.
His place is just, oh yeah, I know. We talked about you today, man. I hit him up because I was like, Tom, I told him about my Tom confusion. And I was like, dude, I actually thought I'd met this guy throughout the last 2 years, and I never met him. And he's like, dude, the guy's cool. Like he actually, you know, he told me a little bit about how he sold you some stuff back in the day, and that you guys have that kind of cool business relationship that you know, obviously he had, you know, he says, I have nothing bad to ever say about Tom. He's a good guy. So it's like, cool. I'm glad that's out of the way. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's first and foremost, the dangerous thing about patience being on your side. Like if you're somebody who's enjoying the ride, this goes by really fast. Am I right? Like once things are happening, like once those clutches are coming, it flies by. Like I cannot believe I'm even in the room I'm in where 6 years ago I was begging my wife, like, can I add another rack or something? You know what I mean? So it's like, it just flies by. That's the only like, but then also it's better than stressing out over nothing. Like you just can't like buy what you love. If it works out, it works out. And that's all you can do, right, Tom? I mean, you can't force this. You can't force anything to go your way in this game.
It's all patience. And it's like you said, time flies because you're constantly looking in
the future.
Next year. And you're
not even next year.
Slow. And when we get to this age, like it's crazy to think back when I started, I was in my 20s, and now it's 20 years later. And it's like, damn, I can see Tom Harbin, I think, is much grayer and older than me, but I'm he is gray. Like my beard, I can't even grow a beard anymore because it's almost all white. It's like, damn, it makes you feel like, you know,
nah,
been around a while.
No, because you're still hanging with the big dogs. You ain't Tom. You're good, buddy. You're still blasting out the gates with some of this awesome stuff that's going to be around here forever, and it has your name on it, literally. So
it is cool because I see other people selling it, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I always do.
Sick.
every time. I'll get on Morph Market, and I'm like, it's cool to see your name. Again, not me. Other people did that, so it's not something that I did. But when I see it, I look at it, and I'm like, yeah, that's my line.
Right.
Like, I give it the once over, because if I see something that looks like a cinnamon, I'm like, that's not my line.
Right.
But when you see your line, there's subtle things about it that I'd have to show you point for point. I'm like, yeah, that guy is legit. I've never sold to him. He probably got it through other hands, but that's definitely my line. Oranges, pattern, I can spot it almost, like I said, with 90-some% accuracy for the most part.
So, Tom, this has been an amazing 2 hours and 5 minutes. It went by very fast, but I do have a wrap-up question for you before we get to some hot seat questions, okay? Man, how can I say this? I think I only got by so long in corporate America world because I was in sales and I was very money motivated. Like, money is what, like, when I was in a position in life where I wrote my own paycheck, which I am in now, like, I always feel like I've always felt comfortable if it was up to me how much money I can make, right? And I did that for so long until I hit a point where I'm like trying to move up in the company and I want to get into management, and then all of a sudden it's not just about me, it's about all these other people, and that's where like everything just went to shit for me, right? I became a very unhappy person because now I got where I wanted to be at in the management world, and now I realized working with people sucks. Like meaning like caring about them and like, are you in the right mood today? Like, what the fuck? I'm not in the right mood. You know what I mean? And so I got really miserable. My last job, Tom, I'm not saying any kind of thing where like I was going to jump off a bridge, but maybe a few years of it, maybe like I just couldn't understand. Yeah. And that's what made me realize like it was scary because this was happening during COVID. Like I got this job I really hated because of COVID. It was a panic job, right? And I just got it. I'm thinking I could hold this down for 5 years and like make these bonuses that they said I can make, but that's if all these other people are on board. And so I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. So luckily because of COVID, I was able to invest into this shit, this podcast thing. And I treated this shit like a full-time job because I couldn't go to work and whatever. And I was able to sustain something. It was nowhere near to what I was making at this job I hated, but still it was enough for me to keep it going. Right. And I feel like
down.
Yeah. Probably, right? It's funny. It's like, yeah, I am stressed about money in a sense, but I feel like I'm doing my job. Like, I feel like I'm doing something that is going somewhere, and I'm waking up with a like I wake up. That's when I started like waking up at it. Like I'm an early bird. So I'm up at like 4:35. And it all started when I had farmland. I had alpacas and shit.
I've seen those.
And so, but like, I just naturally wake up because now I don't have to report to nobody. I don't have to see nobody I hate or like or whatever the fuck. Like I get to see who I love, my wife, my animals, my dogs. So now I walk around just very excited. I have my days still, God bless, but I'm just saying I'm very more of a complete person, wholesome person because of what I do. But what I'm trying to get at here, Tom, for anyone out there who was maybe in my position or in that position I was talking about when I quit that job, very wanting to lose my mind. Maybe it's people who they want that goal. They look at this and they would love to work with animals full time, either if it's breeding, social media, whatever, right? You've been in this game for 20 plus years. What would be your advice for anyone out there who's considering or wanting to sacrifice being miserable at the job that they truly hate and they've had about 5-6 years under their belt, and they see something and they believe in something, but there's that jump off. You know what I mean? Do they jump off? Do they jump off, or do they hold tight and just be miserable? Like what do you say to that?
Because I'm a little bit of both, but because I still work. So, but my advice would be patience, one, but two, and kind of like what we said earlier, don't have a plan down the road. Have an immediate plan and then have goals at different time points, like 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, at least 10-year. And that might sound like I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in 10 years. Well, come up with an idea. Like sit down and think about what you're going to do. And if you're doing specific, we'll gear it specifically towards ball pythons, just because it could be anything that you want to do. But for me, do stuff that's hard for other people to replicate immediately. Like, don't jump in to make pretty snakes that if you're going to do it as a job that you like, make pretty snakes that are hard to replicate and that seem to be popular in the industry. Like, think about how you can make a mark where people know who you are in the shorter amount of time, and how hard it's going to be for any Joe Schmo to take your business. Like, and everybody can do their own ball python thing, and that's great, but you don't want to be doing just straight bananas. You're not going to make any money. You can sell to pet stores, but you're not going to it's going to be, they all sell. Bananas sell great to pet stores, by the way, because the customers love them. Pet owners love bananas. They love white snakes and bananas. So I don't make that many of either of those anymore, but don't do that unless you're going to sell thousands like every month or every year.
And that's a time of the past, guys. Ain't
Exactly.
nobody in this game coming in saying, I want to wholesale 1,000 ball pythons every year. Like, no. And mind you, there's still people doing that. But
I see them on Morph Market sometimes. I just scroll. I'm like, I just want to get past this block to the stuff of the kind of the more breeders like at our level that are making like new stuff. I want to see new stuff. I don't want to see stuff that was popular 10 years ago. And on Morph Market, I've been checking like the amount of animals. It has gone down a couple thousand. But I don't know what the sweet spot is. It went from like 48 to 45 or 44 in the last month or two. But I don't know what the sweet spot is of where the supply and demand start to level out again and people start getting back in, because I'm like, why get out? I don't know. It's just like, it's such a time thing that you've dedicated time. But like you said, their heart wasn't in it.
When was the last time you checked that number recently? That 40
I think I checked it this morning or yesterday. Was it around 44 maybe? 44,000. That's North America. Canada and US.
You know Mark Bailey? You ever heard of Mark Bailey?
Yeah.
Good buddy of mine. When he was here at my house, we did a podcast together. We looked at it and it was like 58,000. And that was in January.
That's a good thing, man.
That's a lot. Like I don't know.
Hopefully people, I mean, a lot of the stuff though, it's funny. When I was looking for puzzle, I was on there today just looking again. If you filter out pastel for every puzzle that's ever been on Morph Market, 50% are gone.
Right.
So I don't really know where I was going with that is if you just take the smaller genes that for me and you are probably pet store sales and like, local sales that you meet a guy a couple $100 here and there. I don't put that on Morph Market, but a lot of people do. You'll go and you'll see yellow bellies. You'll see cinnamons. You'll see, pinstripes. I'm like,
those are some people's best work for that year.
Yeah. Don't do that. If you're going to do this,
there's somebody out there with the yellow belly poss hat clown, and they're like, dude, that was like my holdback, and I decided to put on Morph Market. Thanks, Tom.
Well, that's the shit that was exciting back in the day. Like, I'm like, oh my God, there's a pinstripe yellow belly. I want that male. But everything passes. Everything just progresses forward, and things kind of change so much. That's the one thing. Like I was saying, it's funny to think back 20 years, what was hot and what was good. And when I tell people that I'm looking for a $1,500 male pastel, it sounds so funny now. But at the time, I remember my excitement looking for that. And then the different qualities and looks of pastels too, because you had Graziani line, you had the nerd pastels. There was lemon pastel. I think you had bright yellow to like tan.
Right.
You didn't want the tan
levels. Right.
Yeah.
You wanted the bright. You're right.
You wanted the bright yellow and you wanted to make brighter yellow supers. But man, that was just one of those things that you think back, you're like, that's what got me excited. Pastels.
But like the thing is, there's so much stuff to be excited to today, right?
Oh yeah.
And the thing, and also too, like people come into this with certain, like I've seen different levels of deep pockets coming into this game. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, no matter how deep they are, some people come in with certain expectations, and you just gotta, if you're going to spend a lot of money, have fun with it. But really, dude, some people hate that when I say this, but it comes down to like, whatever you invest in, you got to have, it's like betting on a horse at a racetrack. It's like, dude, this can either go your way and you fucking take it to the championship, or you fucking, sorry, like it, or it could be at a place where you're like, hey man, like ain't nothing wrong with silver. It could be something that's relevant to you or something that it's not. That's the beauty of it. You don't know until you know, but that's how you have to have fun. You got to have fun with it.
And do a little diversification. I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
But like, if you hit, great.
That's
but
what makes it fun. Bit, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, think about what's like hot right now and what you can make an impact with. And you know what's exciting to me is think about the Pompeii, like that particular snake. Think about all the not mutations, but different versions of Pompeii you can make by switching out one of the genes. Now, obviously, you want to keep the clown. Obviously, the red stripe I think is a key component, and yellow belly. But spot nose, has to keep. But when you switch out the Black Pastel to chocolate and just Wookiee and shit like that, it adds a different flair. And then even the Pompeii DG, like stuff like that. I remember I was talking to Levance a few years ago, right when Justin revealed the Pompeii ingredients, and he came to me because he wanted Black Pastel Yellow Belly clown shit.
Right.
So he came right to me and we talked for a while on the phone. And I said, I'm never going to do the Pompeii because I'm so far behind, you know, why bother? But I am going to do it because I want to treat my Black Pastel as
your Black Pastel. Your
maybe
version.
you can see it, maybe you can't. With all that shit in the mix, you don't know.
I love that you said that, man, because I've seen so many GHI hypos out there that I don't want to call it trash, but I've seen my hypo line with GHI, which I think is more Orange Ghost, but it's enough for me to be like, I will keep holding this shit back until I can prove this right. And even if it's made, I don't care how many people make it, I think I can make it better. And
that's always the mindset you want.
And I love that, man. That is, and obviously you're somebody way more advanced and ahead of the game, ahead of my time before what I got going on. But whatever it is that you are doing is inspiring me to keep doing what I'm doing. And who cares? Whoever makes whatever the hell, if you feel like the ingredient that you have is a better looking version, dude, you don't know. Like
it's worth trying, because
why not? Right?
You get to that point where you're like, there's so much shit in the pot. There's so many genes in there. It might not make a difference at all. But what if it does? And then I could be like, this is cool. I mean, I'll post a picture of it and I'll let the customers and the community make that decision if they want to buy it. And it is hard to hit. Even Justin said you can't just mass produce that gene, that combo. It just can't do it.
Right.
So.
Wow. An amazing episode, Tom. This was fire, buddy. We did. I mean, you killed it. That was an awesome episode.
I was nervous when you texted me with the wrong. Thinking you saw me, I was like, one, he's going to say, "Oh shit, forget it, never mind."
No, hell no.
But then, even then, I was like, "Oh god," all week I've been stressing because I'm like, I gotta be on point for this. And then today I had the shittiest day at work. I had to run back. I would commute 50 minutes away from home. I came home and I was like, "Oh shit, I got to go back to Frederick and get something." So I'm on the road, and I wanted to get mentally ready for this. But then when I got home, I was so drained. I watched the Terps beat Purdue in basketball, which is a big upset. Not really, but it was a nice win.
Okay.
And then I was just like, I was so relaxed at that point because I had such an effed up day.
Well, I'm glad this went the way it should have. When like I said, every guest that comes on this show, they want to come right back, and I already know that this is a round two worthy type thing. That
there's still so much stuff. I feel like we could talk for 4 hours.
No,
I have so many things that like we can, just
this is the part one of part many. Okay, I gotta tell you right now, there will be many other opportunities for me and you to go back and forth. But listen, it's hot seat question time. Are you ready for these, Tom, or what?
I'm ready. Yes.
All right, guys, listen, I'm not even, the likes are definitely where they need to be at. I thank you so much for getting the likes up for the homie Tom. But guys, get ready because it's hot seat question, Tom Barnhart style. You ready for these, Tom?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Get the likes up. Hot seat question. Here we go. Frozen thought or live?
Live.
A cut or no cut?
Cut.
On what day?
56.
Egg box substrate.
Vermiculite. Old school.
Favorite temperatures when incubation?
88 is what I've been doing lately.
Favorite arboreal species?
Probably the chondra, the green tree pythons that you have there. I like green. I love green. They're just awesome looking.
Least favorite codom in the ball python projects?
Probably butter and lesser at this point.
Ooh.
It's just played out, I think. For me, for what I have, I can't add anything to it.
There you go. What about favorite codom in the ball python projects?
I'm gonna not say the obvious because it is my favorite. I'm gonna say blackhead right now.
Okay. You're not wrong.
Obviously, it's Black Pastel. I mean,
okay. Yay imports or boo imports?
Today, probably boo.
What about if you could import any reptile to your collection, no matter like what it is that you typically keep? It could be anything, like a dreamy reptile species in the wild. If you could keep it, what would it be?
It would be hard to keep it, but I think the marine iguanas are awesome looking. Like they look like what you think a dinosaur would look like swimming.
Yeah, that looks like somebody drew that. Like that's like you're not like somebody created that. Like it's a character in a cartoon or something.
It's wild. I
It's
just like the
wild.
look of them. They look so just
With
menacing.
the blue eyes, like they have like
Yeah.
ocean blue eyes like that, and it's a black animal. Man,
And then when they showed the photos of them swimming through the water, it just looks. I like to look at.
But how would you keep something like that? Unless
that's the thing. I'm not a big.
Unless you're a sick bastard and the owner of SeaWorld, and you could just like like that's the only But still not cool.
I listened to Stanley the other day. He made a great point. He's like, nothing marine.
Yeah,
no
you can't leave
like,
the ocean alone. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. To miss a ball python or to never miss a ball python?
Yeah, I missed.
Ideal ball python substrate.
I'll say cocoa.
Okay.
I've used everything. I switch all the time, but right now it's cocoa.
First meal for a ball python hatchling.
I do mouse hopper the first meal.
How many?
I'll do one meal with mouse hopper and then go to a rat pup. Typically the second, sometimes the third if it's a runt or a really small snake.
Right.
I find they get a better feeding response that first meal if it's a mouse hopper, and then once I get it in, I switch.
I agree. Yay sports or boo sports? Obviously, yay. Okay.
Yeah,
favorite sport?
Football. Baseball,
college football or NFL?
And so you feel my pain here.
Yeah.
I'm a Raider fan. So
Oh,
it's NFL.
you're a Raider fan.
Yeah.
Why are there Raider fans in Maryland? I love it. Ozzy's a Raider fan too. That's one.
So back in the early '80s, I was a Colt fan when I was a kid. They left town, and I want to say that year the Raiders beat the Redskins in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And all of my family were Redskin fans. It was Colts and Redskins, and they would always kind of argue. Sorry, Commanders, whatever they are today, but it was Redskins back in the day.
Right.
So the Colts left town. The Raiders won that Super Bowl, and they had Marcus Allen, Howie Long, Jim Plunkett, Lyle Zato. Like they just had a colorful cast of guys that you could root for.
Yeah,
and
that squad back then was like the Avengers, man. Like it was no joke back then.
Then you got Bo Jackson later, Willie Galt. I mean, it was fun in the 80s.
Ray Allen, man, good times.
Yeah, it was great.
Steak or fish?
Steak.
Favorite cut of steak?
Ribeye.
Favorite side with the steak?
Probably I would say broccoli, just because I'm on low carb anymore. So
I feel like you're making fun of me right now. Broccoli?
No, we could go another hour on this low carb thing. Like it.
Oh shit! No.
I do fasting and like almost like a ketovore diet, and my mind is so clear now. It's insane. I'm fasting right now. I haven't eaten in like a day.
Can we talk more about it personally, like in the chat, and then we'll go live about it on the next round? Because I would love to tap it. I will say, to put this hot seat questions on pause real quick. One of the most awesome things I've ever had conversation wise in a podcast was when I had Kevin McCurley on, and he was just going off about human digestive systems being damn near identical to animals, and how that's how we look at animal digestives and like dieting and food and what you put in everything. It's crazy. And
I'm like tapped into that big time right now.
Yeah.
And from experience, I used to be very heavy vegetable based because I thought that was the right thing to do and healthy. I felt like I was dying. Now I'm very heavily meat based, and I feel like a superhero, and I'm getting older. I feel like it better than I did in my 20s. It's crazy.
But I mean, but sir, with all due respect, there's so many different vegetables that are so much bomber than broccoli. You could have said baby broccoli. You could have said asparagus. You could have said a nice salad.
Well, I was thinking potatoes are good, but I can't eat
you said
potatoes.
No carbs. Okay, respect though. I'm glad.
I mean, there's a little bit in broccoli, and I'll have a small portion each day just to kind of balance it. But
yeah. I feel like, I will say before we continue this, I feel like if you are on a really shitty diet, like you need that balance of both. But if you're working out, that protein is going to take you so far. That's the energy boosters, that meat. Yeah.
The cool thing is when you're high protein, you don't have to work out near as much, and you look better
and feel better,
because that sugar is poison. Like I don't want to go off here on a tangent, but sugar makes you feel horrible mentally. It's ups and downs of energy. I want to be steady all day, so I eliminated it, and I feel great.
I have a crazy connection. Like it's an abusive relationship with food, me and food. Ever since I was a kid, I just eat what I like and what I love. And now I'm at a point where the things I was obsessed about, like I almost don't like them because I can't eat it no more. Like I'm getting old, and it's like
indigestion, heartburn, headaches. I wake up with headaches in the morning when I was eating wheat. I stopped eating wheat and the headaches went away. I love wheat. I love beer, bread, all that shit. I love beer. I had to give that up. I'll drink wine occasionally now. That's my vice.
But even wine, listen, I always thought wine, I was good with wine, but I was fucking throwing down a bottle of wine every episode and all that. No, it was just like that's a lot of sugar. Like there's shit ton of sugar. And I was, gaining weight because I was going to the gym a lot, but I was like, dude, where's this fucking, what's happening?
Off, man.
And it's like, and also too, just, I don't know. As much as we're talking about sugar, I feel like alcohol is not the answer either. I think like there's a time and a place, enjoyment, right? But if you're somebody who comes home and you got to booze up or you got to drink, dude, that's like, and
I used to come home and I'm like, I want to drink. I need a drink. Never now because once you limit it, and I do special occasions. I did drink during the Super Bowl because in my mind I'm drinking. I just don't drink on a Friday night anymore like I used to.
Because it's
or
Friday.
Wednesday. Like I never drink during the week. But now you feel so much better, but it is a sacrifice. But once you realize you recognize it, it's like my snakes, I can now go in and be focused with what I'm doing. It's not like, oh, I'm hungover this morning, I can't get to my snakes. Like that would never happen now.
Before we finish these hot tea questions, the biggest thing that I cannot eat anymore is cereal. If I eat cereal, I'm fucking toast, bro. And I'm talking my favorite cereal. I'm talking Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Frosted Flakes, Trix. If I eat that shit, I am demolished. I can't. My something happens to my stomach. I'm in a bad place. Okay.
And it happens when you get older. This shit happens. I was bulletproof in my 20s. My 30s, I started noticing weird shit. And now I'm in my 40s. I'm like, if I eat better, I feel better. And it's worth it at this point. I mean, how many years left do I have,
And before anyone thinks it's the 2%, no, I've been on an almond milk thing for a long time. It's just even almond milk, like any kind of like, I'm telling you. Anyways, we got to get back to business. I'm so sorry. No, my fault. Here we go. Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Oh, Van Halen all day.
Elvis or Elton John?
Elton John. Had to think about that.
My grandma's pissed right now. I'm just kidding. West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
I want to say East Coast.
All right. Little word association. First thing to come to mind, full-time ball python breeder.
It's not me. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of that. They're jealous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Day 60.
Should pipped or cut or babies.
Cut them open, motherfucker. Milk.
Cookies.
Cocoa.
Substrate.
Stuck shed.
Soak.
NARBC.
I need to go to one.
USARC.
A member.
Favorite Maryland breeder.
I'm going to go with my boy Oz, just because he's the reason for me to kind of where I am now. I think I owe a lot to him back in the day.
And Raiders should stick together, I would think. It's not
easy.
Yeah.
I know that's another thing. The Snakes and the Raiders. We were talking all night, and then it just kind of, we took similar paths.
Okay, here we go.
Kind of.
If you had to eliminate one recessive genetic gene out of the ball python game forever, and it's never coming back, what recessive gene to Tom Barnhart needs to go forever?
I have a good answer. I think albino, regular albino. We have lavender. Why do we need regular?
Wow, there you have it, Tom. We had just shy of 100 people for the majority of this podcast. Okay, how many likes? Did you guys get the likes up? 90 likes. Thank you so much. The likes are up there. Dude, what do you have to say to all your supporters, but honestly, the ones who've been loyal to you, wanting you to get where you're at? Just in general, what do you have to say to all your loved ones out there, Tom?
It's crazy that people know me and support me, and I've never met most of the people that I interact with. You interact with them virtually or online and through emails, whatever, and I appreciate it. And it's hard to think about. When you think about it, you're like, I know people in foreign countries that know me, but I don't really know who they are. It's very much appreciated. And to me, I'm very humble. And like I said, I've denied my Black Pastel as anything special until recently. So I just had that mentality of, you know, it's I guess it's just very appreciated and humbling and cool to think about from like when you start thinking people in Japan and Thailand and Indonesia are buying from me for a reason. And it's crazy.
Because Tom Barnhart be global. I'm telling you right now, buddy, you got your own line.
Global sales are good, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of bulletproof to what's going on here. I'm selling a lot overseas. And one thing I wanted to say earlier, you asked about imports.
Right.
Yeah or nay? Obviously, I was kind of built on an import.
Yeah.
But that was back in the day when shit was still new. I think we have enough here that we can go for years and be happy. But I just don't want like any destruction of like wildlife. I'm sure it probably doesn't happen easily and gently for the wildlife. So that's where my head was with that. But obviously I realized my Black Pastel was an import. So
Tom, for people to be on top of what's going on with your availability, but just your projects, or they just want to follow your work, best thing to do is Instagram, obviously, right? Tom Barnhart.
Yeah. I was going to say Tom Barnhart 27 on Instagram. I try to, I put stuff on Morph Market under my name, Tom Barnhart, for sale. But the good stuff, as you see here, some of this is sold and some was for sale and some isn't. I'll throw on Instagram to get a little bit of attention. I do like fish too, but yeah, like I'll throw it on both just to kind of get people. Because if you message me on Instagram and, you know, we can start a dialogue and I can sell a snake that way just as easily. I just can't put a price because I think I've gotten my post taken down for that recently.
Well, listen, can't wait to continue this. Like I said, we're going to have a lot more segments of me and Tom going back and forth.
I think we have a lot more stuff to talk about. We can get into the whole diet thing.
Yeah.
And, you know,
plenty more of stuff we could talk about. And, but I got to say, thank you so much for this legendary episode here on Trap Talk. But that's a wrap for Tom Barnhart of Tom Barnhart Ball Pythons. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. All right, Tom. Thank you so much, buddy. Have a good night.
Man.
I appreciate
you too. Take it easy.
Cheers, bud. See you later.
Right. Bye.
What a great episode. I really wish I had an extra 2.5 hours and I would keep going because we need more. I feel like we need more Tom. Man, great episode. Thank you guys for tapping in. If this was your first time tapping in, if you enjoyed what Tom had to say, if you enjoyed the content that you got, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you're on top of every other podcast. Speaking of every other podcast, we have quite the agenda to finish off this week. First and foremost, before I tell you what's happening tomorrow, Sunday, sitting down with my good buddy, Ryan McVeigh, for Holy Lizard sessions that we do here on Sundays on Trap Talk Reptile Podcast. Is UVB worth it? Especially VidTech products. We're going to talk all about it. Proof behind UBV. We're going to talk all about it, okay? So be ready for that. Set your reminder. It's going down 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And then as always, on every Sunday that we have a podcast, we do the Trap Talk Patreon after party for Patreon members only on Zoom. We all become face-to-face. We all catch up. We talk about stuff. It's amazing. So if you want to be a part of that awesome community and party and all that other good stuff, go down, click the Trap Talk Patreon link and join the Patreon family. I'll shoot you a link to the Discord. Tap in with all the trappers. And then, follow me on Instagram, Trap Talk God 619. Follow the podcast's page as well, the Trap Talk Reptile Podcast on IG. And cannot wait. It's going to go down. Big things ahead. And then also be ready because it is going down with my dog, right-hand man.
Hop from the hop to the club spot. Get the club to pop. When I come up with the club spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the club spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
Obviously, that's an old promo. January 20th was our first show, but it's February 17th. That's right. Tomorrow, me and Donnie, it's going down. Guys, have a good night. I'll see you at the top.